Hello and welcome to episode 131 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular guys drinking some regular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the story.
That's right. We are doing our Drunken Vorthos episode for Wilds of Eldraine. Yes, the story came out a while ago, but we thought that we'd give you a little refresher before the Ixalan story comes out later this month. So catch up with us tonight as we go through the Wilds of Eldraine. But Jeff, it's a Drunken Vorthos, and it can't be a Drunken Vorthos if it's not a Silver series. So what's on tap tonight?
All right. So tonight is the final round of our Silver Series tournament. So to recap that, every Drunken Vorthos, we've been drinking 4 different silver beers. Now, when we started this, silver kind of had a different meaning. It was basically exclusively macro brews.
Mhm.
Now we kind of think of silver as just bad or boring. So some of these probably don't really belong in silver anymore. They're just macro brews. But the point was to find the best macro brew,
Mhm.
or our favorite macro brew is probably a better way to put it.
Yes.
And so every time we did one of these, we put 4 different beers against each other. We picked our favorites. Top 2 moved on in a tournament style. And here we are, the final round, the last 4 standing.
Yeah. Should we say all of the beers, or we'll slow roll it? If you're
Yeah. Yeah.
a diligent listener to the show, you will know which 4 we're drinking this evening. But if this is the first Drunken Vorthos for you, welcome to the end of the era.
Yeah.
Because
This is your
after
first one. This will be, yeah,
this will
go ahead.
go back and listen to the other ones, I guess. Um, but anyway, Jeff, with that, tell us about our first beer of the night.
Okay, so if you're new here, another thing we do is we tend to do these in chronological order. So
Hmm.
oldest beer first. Um, that means that we are starting off tonight with Stella Artois,
Mm.
which is a Pilsner from Belgium. It's 5%. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You've heard of it, but it is founded in 1366. So
Hmm.
not the oldest beer that we've done, but pretty
Mm,
darn old.
yeah, I can't remember which one's older than this one, but I trust you. I trust that.
I don't remember which beer it was, but I know the state's not the oldest one.
Nice. Well, as we know, old beers tend to be pretty good beers. So, uh,
Been
well,
around for, almost 700 years for a reason.
yeah, exactly. All right, Jeff, let's crack this one open and get started on our Drunken Vorthos. So, we're just going to jump right into things. Um, a little precursor. This is the beginning of the new story arc. So we finished the story with the Phyrexians with March of the Machine. Big takeaways, if you don't know much about that, is that the Phyrexians are phased out essentially, and so they're gone from existence. And planeswalkers, almost all of them, lost their sparks, so they can no longer travel to different planes, most of them, and they're just legendary creatures again. There are a handful of planeswalkers still, but most of them lost their spark. And there are these things, called omen paths, which help regular folks walk in between different planes. So no one's a plane, less people are planeswalkers, but everybody has the opportunity to go wherever they'd like.
No one's a planeswalker, but everyone's a planeswalker.
Exactly. All right. So these are the main 4 stories or 4 episodes or chapters of the actual Wilds of Eldraine story. We will not be covering any of the side stories because that's too much stuff and we don't want to.
Yeah, these already run pretty long.
They do.
So,
Jeff, are you wearing my button right now? What are you doing? What is
of
that?
course, yeah. Look at that. There we go.
Oh
Beauty.
god. Yeah, great. Perfect. You could okay, explain the button. If you're not watching on YouTube, go on YouTube to check it out. But Jeff, what's the button?
This is a button with Zach's face on it. He's smiling, a lovely smile. Doesn't
Mhm.
look, serial killery at all. Um, And this has just been like in my bedroom. I keep one of these, near my bed at all times.
Mhm.
And I saw it today and I figured, you know what, let's wear that tonight. That's
Nice.
the right time.
They were from my bachelor party. That's where they're from. Jeff did not make this, and I did not give it to him. My sister gave it to him. So, anyway, all right. Now that we, oh god. Anyway, okay, here we go. So this is the main story of Wilds of Eldraine by K. Arsenault Rivera. Now, K. Arsenault Rivera is an author that we have seen multiple times before. This is the author of Innistrad Midnight Hunt, as well as Innistrad Crimson Vow. And they've done a few others, but those are the ones I remember
I feel like
mostly.
they've done the most recent ones, right? Like, didn't they do Pyrexia and
Oh, did they do
Arc as
all?
well?
I think that's true. This might just be like their resident author now
Yeah, I
because
think they may have just sort of gotten the gig, as it were.
Mhm. Which,
Um,
honestly, I think is great so that these stories keep the same level of like
right.
you can expect a certain thing and it doesn't go up and down so much as they've had. Also, if you have one author, they know the story as they've been writing it, so they just have a wealth of knowledge, and they're not going to
Yeah.
write anything weird, and we won't have another War of the Spark novel fiasco.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I feel like there have been stories where each chapter was written by somebody
mhm.
different, and those were very odd.
Very odd. Yeah. And so now they just have one author do the main story, and they'll have guest authors do the side stories.
Mhm.
Um, so we are sticking with K. Arsenault Rivera, who we have middling uh, degrees of success in our opinion wavers depending on which story we're talking about. So let's see how this one stacks up.
I feel like there are certain things that they are good at, and certain things that they are, in my opinion, less good at. And
Mhm.
so if a certain story arc requires much of one and not much of the other,
That's
that
true.
sort of pushes to which end of the spectrum that story tends to be.
So at the end of this episode, we will tell you which side this whole story was on. But Jeff, let us jump right back into things with episode 1, Pure of Heart. So the beginning of this, we recap a little bit of what happened. The Phyrexians have invaded and they killed King Kenrith and Queen Lyndon, Will and
Oh no.
Rowan's parents. So now Will has become the new king, or I guess he decided that he is the boy king, is what people are calling him. And Rowan doesn't necessarily like that he has taken the throne.
Especially with the title Boy King. Like, come on.
It's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But is that the same as like girl boss? I don't know. Anyway, it
Mm.
just
It's all context, I guess.
I guess I don't like the term girl boss because it sounds demeaning, and boy king also sounds demeaning. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, so we have Imodane, who is if you know the cards, Imodane is like that 4 mana 4/4 that cares about instants and sorceries burning your opponent's face. Um,
Never
so
heard of that card. Oh, I'll have to find that.
yeah, it's Imodane has a like wooden arm and as well as like a giant hammer and has been raiding villages. So Will decides he's going to go negotiate with Imodane because she calls herself the queen. And so we have to decide, well, who's going to rule all of Eldraine? And uh, she just believes that the twins weren't actually fighting to protect Eldraine. They were off doing something else. But obviously, like, I don't know, their parents got murdered and they went
Yeah.
through a bunch of shit. I don't think that has any.
I mean, you gotta like imagine as someone who can't planeswalk, the way you must think about planeswalkers, like they're
It's
just
true.
never there.
Hmm.
Um, Also, she has a bit of a barbarian thing going on, is what the
Hmm.
vibe I was kind of getting. Um, and so it's a bit of like, I think she just thinks Will and Rowan are weak, and so she
Yeah,
might as well like claim power because she's stronger than them.
that's a good point to put a little pin in power and using your power to control Eldraine and rule is
Yeah.
one tactic that will be used, which Will does not like to use. He is much more of a negotiator. He likes to use his words. and rule
Mhm.
from more, I don't know. I was going to say his icy heart, but that's not true at all because he's actually quite warm, even though he does have ice powers.
Hmm.
So Will suggests a duel. He says, "Let's do this very civilized. We shall duel for the throne, and we'll see who comes out on top." Which Rowan doesn't think is a super good idea for Will to fight because he kind of sucks. Don't forget, this would be like Will doesn't have. He lost one of his legs in Strixhaven,
Right.
so he has like his. It's a metal leg that he like forms ice around, um, which they don't bring up at all since it happened for whatever reason.
Hey,
But
ice leg, wooden arm. Feels fair.
yeah, exactly. So it's perfect. Who wouldn't want to see that? So
I don't know who has the advantage in that fight.
I feel like ice leg sounds a lot better than wooden arm, but
Yeah, like he has a bionic leg, and she just has like a tree trunk coming out of her.
it's just like a piece of a barn.
Yeah,
just
can't bend.
it's just like um, anyway. So Rowan wants to fight instead, and so while they're dueling, there's a bunch of stuff that goes on in the duel, but this is the kind of thing that I miss a little bit sometimes in the writing where it's like there's a lot of stuff happening, but nothing really
Yeah,
matters. Um, so
right.
during their fight, Rowan happens to tap into something inside of her body. And she kind of like freaks out and like explodes a little bit and tries to stop the fight in in a way that Will is being kind of pummeled on. And as there's a swing that could end him, but we don't think that Imodane's actually going to do it, but Rowan does. Um, she unleashes her power and well, she obliterates a mountain.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
like
So this is very like okay, starting with a duel for power of like
mhm,
control of Eldraine. Love it. That's great.
mhm,
It came off as a bit shaky though, because leading up to this whole thing, there's like a full conversation essentially that happens between Ivodane, Will, and Rowan. We gave you the details of what they're saying,
mhm.
which is not a lot. But during this time, it's kind of told from Rowan's perspective, and then it's about Imodaine. And there's like a whole paragraph that's just every sentence says like she and then her,
Right.
but they're actually referencing different characters. And then like in each sentence, it kind of changes. And so like I read that paragraph, I was like, who said what
I
about who to like I you got to throw a name in once in a while because it was like she gasped and then her she said this and then she said that. It's like who is speaking?
it was also confusing because there's a bit where Rowan is fighting with Will and then Imodane's fighting with Will, so you can't really
Yeah, they're
it's
both
having
yelling at Will and it's
yeah,
like
this difficult thing of like exactly what's going on. So I remember reading through that again as well. But
so now it's a bit like it's gonna be a rough it's gonna be a
yeah,
rough ride.
yeah. So anyway, Rowan wants to stop everything and is basically trying to save her brother from Imodane. And so she goes full black mana emerges from her. This is the moment I feel that she actually is starting to embrace her black mana side, as
Mhm.
we see in the card that she is now black and red. And she gives us our first story spotlight, which is Stone Splitter Bolt, where she splits the mountain in half with her bolt of lightning, and which is our removal spell from the set, and it freaks everybody out. That's pretty fucking scary. Um, Most of the people around are all like her Imodane's like barbarian folks, so they're like, "Oh shit! Wow, I didn't know you could do that." None of us knew you could do that, and it freaks Will out as well, being like, "Well, I don't know why it freaked him out that much because he's seen her do some crazy shit." So,
Yeah,
and
like
he knows she's like stronger than him. Why does he keep pretending that she's not? I don't understand. Like we
yeah,
know
that,
she's more powerful. It's been explicitly laid out to us.
right. It's one of those weird like nuances, and this is something that will happen over and over again in this story, but I feel like people's reactions to things are too strong and too sudden, um, just as a way to like move the story.
Mhm.
And so Like they're just fighting, and then Rowan goes, ah, ah, like splits the mountain, and then everyone's like, whoa, and then Amadane just runs the fuck away.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
like,
okay, is
it's
it?
like, and the whole time, Imodane, Imodane, Ibandani, I don't know.
Mhm. I was
But
gonna say
what have you been saying? I'll just say that now.
Imodane. I've been saying Imodane.
Imodane. Okay,
Yeah.
that's probably right. Like
Uh,
Imogen from Baldur's Gate.
yeah. Totally. I know that. So Imodane runs into the forest, and to the point that you were getting at, I think this is more of like Rowan is watching an interaction and overreacting to what she is seeing, and everyone else is living in the same world as Will and Imodane, but Rowan is living in this other world where she's thinking that this is a bit more serious, and then so she overreacts so much so that it freaks everybody out because what she did was not uh, in the same world that they're in. Um,
Yeah. It's just like they
so
spend a fair amount of time painting this picture of Imodane as this like fearless kind of warmonger,
it's
cute
true.
like, and then like Rowan casts lightning bolt, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Whoa!" and just
And the
runs.
bolts.
She just turns
That's
around
true.
and runs.
This is also Imoden can shoot fire. So this isn't like
Yeah,
it's not
it's
like
not like
magic that she's not
never
used
seen
to.
magic before
Yeah,
kind of thing,
it's
and Will is like using ice during the duel and stuff.
yeah.
So,
Anyway, we should get off of this part because this is going to take forever if we just keep talking
yeah,
about this. But anyway, okay. So Imode keeps running, and then she realized that she has trespassed at this mysterious point with this dreamlike castle. We don't know the entity that she is speaking to, but she immediately shows fealty and falls to her knees and begs for forgiveness from Her Majesty. And then a voice just asks if she is pure of heart. And then we cut to this little town. Um, we know Imodane is somewhere else, and the way she's been talking seems like she's the head honcho. And now that we see that she actually has some sort of master, um, it gives us some sort of weird, like the woods are scary vibes. And there's a bigger force out there because until up until this point, she's been the big baddie. So, well, I guess Rowan is the big baddie now, but
yeah, with that stone splitter bolt. Right. So now we're in Oranshire,
mhm.
which is a small town, and they they're going to reference it a lot, but there's a lot of sheep here. There's a lot of sheep in this small town, and it's like so remote that the Phyrexians basically never found it. So they have essentially no contact, from my understanding, of the rest of Eldraine,
Mhm.
other than the like wool trade, and so they this part's a little hard for me to believe, but they essentially like didn't know that this shit happened, even though they have these merchants trading the wool.
Yeah, they like they know about the Phyrexians and they know about the like slumber and stuff, right? But they just haven't seen any of it. It's like stories that people tell them
Yeah, I feel like there are
because
moments where Kellen just didn't even know, but maybe he's just too young or
well, he's a
something.
little
But
boy. Um,
yeah,
but we meet Kellen, who is walking back into his house after being bullied by the Cotter boys outside.
yeah,
Um, and this bullying is pretty rough. They're throwing nails and wood at him. Nails. Ugh. That's that's just a lot. But I guess that's like rocks. I don't know. But anyway, they're saying that he's a half fairy and that he's the reason that everybody's asleep. So this is the first mention of the slumber. Um, so they're pointing at him, saying obviously he is magical in some sense. So like you're the weird one. You do it. I think that the use of fairy in this specific moment fits really well with the telling of bullies and stuff, and saying that something that's
yeah.
destroying our society is your fault. Um, is a nice allegory for some other things in our real world. So yeah, I like that part. Great job.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
There's also a few mentions that, Callan's not the biggest fan of Oranshire, probably because there are very few people there, and the ones that are there bully him. So
that would make
that would
sense.
make it probably kind of suck.
It's also because his mother and his stepdad don't really tell him much about his father.
Right.
He doesn't really know anything that's going on with it, and they won't tell him because he's just a child. So any questions he might have, he doesn't really feel like he's in the kind of place where he could actually get the information he was looking for, just because I guess his mom's not ready yet. Um, anyway, he doesn't want to believe them, but he does feel like he's drawn to the woods, which is obviously a mysterious place where magical things happen. We are going to cut to Will, who is in the war room of Castle Vantress now that Ardenvale has been destroyed from the Phyrexians. And Rowan comes in and wants to fight him about how to rule the kingdom, and they get in that whole thing. There's a thing in Eldraine where you can only be king if you go through the trials, which the whole thing was like you go to each different castle and you have to go through their trials so that you've showed that you're adamant and that you can become king. That's all what Throne of Eldraine was about. And that he can't be king because he did not go through the High King trials, which is how Rowan displays you are not the king.
Did he go through the Boy King trials?
Yeah, what's the Boy King trials? It just sounds like boinking now.
The boinking trial. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
Boinking, Boy King, boinking.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, it's so stupid. um, uh, so we find out that the wicked slumber, which is the purple stuff on all the knights, is how they dealt with the Phyrexians. But it happens to persist, and people are still asleep, and they don't really know why, and they don't know how to wake them up. So we're living in a world where a bunch of knights and people are just asleep with this purple stuff around them, and everyone just lives with it, and you just kind of step aside, and you just don't touch them, and
Yeah.
that's how it goes.
Yeah. Anyways, they get into this argument, like you said. Will's all like, "Oh, why did you split that mountain? Why did you intervene? All right, totally. She was gonna not kill me and yield for some reason." Rowan was like, "Why would you do that? That makes no sense. Also, you're not High King." And then Rowan's like, "Screw you," and tries to bamf out of there. Unfortunately, she can't. So Rowan and Will, I believe they like shared a spark or something.
Yes.
But that spark is gone. And this is how, I don't know if they both kind of can feel that and learn it at the same time, or if just she knows it because she's the one that tried to use it.
Yeah, this is from
I feel
her
like they both would probably know.
There, maybe Will knows, but we know for sure that Rowan does because we're in her perspective. Yeah. And so she's the one who's trying to obviously planeswalk out of there, and she just doesn't really understand why she can't. But also, she boils it down to because they share a spark and they know they share a spark, they can only planeswalk together. So if Will doesn't want to go, then I don't think she can go by herself. So I don't even know if it's at this moment she just thinks the spark's gone. I think that she just knows.
Then why would she even like try? When he's obviously not going to go.
That's true. I don't know. That's just what I was thinking.
Just because she's a hothead.
Yeah, and she just had the impulse, maybe. Anyway, now we are going to cut back to Kellen, who is walking with his mom and his sheepdog Hex by the woods. And he's doing the classic, like, "Oh, I'm going to race my dog up to the top of this hill." So they like run up to the top. And then he gets there as his mom's walking behind him, and he looks to his left and he sees this enchanted archway. And he's like, "Oh, that's kind of cool and blue and different. That seems like an adventure. How nice." So he obviously waits for his mom to get there before he goes in this weird archway, right? Just to make sure that it's safe.
Of course not. He just goes through.
Doesn't even say anything.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even wait until like nightfall or something. He just like pieces out. Like, "Sorry, we're on an afternoon walk. Now I'm gone. Bye."
Yeah, see you, Mom.
So
Don't wait up. I will be forever, but it'll be forever before I'm back.
And so that brings us to our story spotlight card, Into the Fey Court, which is our 5-mana draw spell where you make a little dude. Anyway, who does he find on the other side of this portal? And as he comes into the Fey court.
Well, he meets Lord Talion. Talion? Talion.
Sure.
Um, the sort of Lord of the Fey in Eldraine. Lord Talion knows exactly who Kellen is, and allegedly knows who his father is. But of
Oh,
course, the Fey don't give things out for free. And so he will not tell him who his father is. But Kellen does learn that the Cotter boys
hmm.
may have been onto something in alleging that he is half Fey.
So, of course, knowing that Talion knows something about his father, he can't get that information anywhere else, and he believes that he deserves to be somewhere else besides this dang sheep town. Um, Talion offers him a quest, which is very enticing, and this will break the curse of the Wicked Slumber, because the Wicked Slumber was started by three witches named Agatha the Hungry, Cruel Hilda, and the Beguiling Ariette. And if he can go and defeat these three witches, he will be the hero of all of Eldraine, ending the wicked slumber, and then Lord Talion will finally tell him who his father truly is. So, of course, Kellen accepts this quest and he goes off on his way without telling his
Yes.
mom or his stepdad or anybody.
Yeah. So I get the impression that he did tell them only because the very end they seem to know all about the quest. So whether he got
I
back
guess
and
that's
told
true.
them or told them and then went off, like basically him explaining any of this to his parents is
Off
sort of
screen. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but then on second thought, it's like if my kid comes and tells me they're going on this quest to, find out who their real father is to defeat witches three who
Hmm.
have started the slumber. And he's like, I don't know how old he is, but it's a child. I'd be like, no. Who's this man that talked to you in the woods? Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna call the
don't.
police.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. But in this town, it's more like let's call the shepherds, and they're gonna get their shotguns, and let's
That's right.
or I guess crossbows in this
They're
scenario.
anti-fey bolts or whatever.
Stick.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway,
But how
uh,
old is Kellen supposed to be?
I don't know. The way he talks, he feels like
Because
he's like 10.
I was gonna say some of his dialogue makes it seem like he's like 5 years old, anywhere from like 5 to 10 years old. But some
I
of
mean,
the
yeah.
art kind of makes him look like a teenager.
Hmm.
So it's like, and everyone just calls him kid. I'm like, I have no idea how old this character is. Feels like people wouldn't just let an 8-year-old like run off to the big city in search of
It's a
witches.
different plane, man. Like they got different rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely feels like 8 to 12. That's I think
Yeah.
that's
He's written as something like that.
yeah,
Like
he's something like that. Anyway, and it definitely feels like it, and we will see that. I think our author does a good job of making him sound like a child because we'll get to some stuff that's just like, holy shit, kid, just just shut it.
yeah. Just
Stop.
stop it.
Stop it. But we are going into episode 2, Wandering Knight, Budding Hero. All right. So Rowan has left the Castle Ardenvale fighting with her brother, and she's on her own quest now to end the Wicked Slumber, to prove that she knows how to rule Eldraine and Will doesn't, because her way is right, which is get out there, find the thing, kill the thing, use your power, be strong. That's how you rule, not with a bunch of diplomacy and maps and shit, which is what Will
Yeah.
likes to do because he's a blue mage.
Yeah. I don't totally understand the point of this whole segment that happens
Hmm.
here. But basically, she's journeying and she's like staying with the locals. People know her. They know
Hmm.
she's Rowan. They know she's, the king's daughter.
Princess, yeah.
Um, and they invite her in for food and like to maybe rest a bit because she's traveling pretty far. One of the people that offers her hospitality is, I think, a spider. They
Yes.
had 8 eyes and 8
Mhm.
arms. But obviously she didn't know that. The spider says something like, "Oh, your kind needs rest," or something like that. And Rowan's like,
Yes.
"My kind," like pulls out her sword and points it at the lady, and then
Thing.
the lady reveals herself to be a arachnid of some sort,
Thing.
and then was like, "I gave you food," and then Rowan, "So I can't be an enemy," and Rowan's like, "Ah, for good. That's a good point."
Yeah.
Um,
But then like Rowan doesn't want to sleep, and
yeah,
the spider's like, "Well, you're gonna have to sleep at some point, but like not around you." Uh,
yeah.
I also didn't super get this until like I don't really understand why there's the creepy monster spider thing.
And there's like their house was beautiful, and then it's like, now I know why their house was so beautiful. It's like because they have 8 arms. They're
Because
really
they,
good at weaving. I
yeah,
don't know.
I'm not really sure. But it kind of brings some stuff. There's like some notes about like, rest will come for you whether you like it or not. So it's
Mhm.
best to face it on your own terms. So essentially, stop running away. I
I think
think
it's
that
literally just to like shoehorn that line in so they can reference it later.
essentially, I wonder how much of this, because some of the story also feels like maybe some of it is weird dreams and stuff too. Um,
Right.
because I don't really know. We get into that as in the morning, Rowan then like leaves and makes it to some empty castle and like fights off some zombies that are just around because there's always zombies around, I guess. Um, and she finally falls asleep, but while she's doing that, as she's like going into this, oh wait, no, that's a different part. Never mind. I don't want to get into that. She is dreaming that she's in a tavern and she's like drinking mead, and then she looks over and she sees her dad and she's like, oh my god, you're alive. And so she's hugging her parents and she's crying, and then Kenrith like takes off his crown and puts her on her head and tells her to go to Ardenvale, which is weird because Ardenvale is destroyed. It's just absolutely just ruins. But it's like her, classic Knight's Tale fever dream of like, oh, this is what I have to do. This is the swords in the lake kind of thing. Um,
Yeah. I just don't understand why this dream couldn't have happened at the end of the previous act while she was at Vantress. And then she's
that's
like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Ardenvale."
that's a great point. Because
I
now she won't
don't know why
be she.
Spider Lady had to make the
I don't
appearance.
know spy. I don't get. Okay, I can't. I don't have a place for Spider Lady. It's good she has the dream away from Will because then she doesn't tell him about it. But also she was
It
mad.
must be some reference to a character we're like supposed to know. There's some like secret Spider Lady that, and then it's like, oh, Spider Lady helped Rowan
Yeah,
or something.
I don't know. It's shielded.
It's always shielded.
Yeah, always shielded. So anyway, as Rowan goes on her quest to Ardenvale, that brings us to story spotlight number 3, which is Rowan's Grim Search, our black draw spell. But we're gonna just leave Rowan on that little search for a while because we are cutting back to Kellen, who is
Mhm.
in Edgewall, um, and he's asking some people about witches because that's what a
Yeah.
child would do in a new town. Just like, hey, do you know where witches are? Have you heard of witches before? I'm supposed to
Yeah.
kill them.
He's like, I must defeat some witches. Do you know where they are?
Which is like, oh, kid, oh, you little scamp.
Yeah.
Um, he heads out of the inn and to find a sleeping knight. He's got all the purple wisps on him. We know he's with the wicked slumber. And as he's about to touch him, a girl stops him and explains that you might catch the wicked slumber if you touch the people who have it. We don't know if this is confirmed or true because I would assume that if there's one person sleeping, there would probably be multiple people sleeping around
It'd be
them.
in bunches. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the case. So I am guessing that this is just kind of a myth to be like, don't fuck with the sleeping people because, I mean, that's just rude. But
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I think like the main sort of thing we learn here is that the curse is spreading.
hmm
So it kind of seemed like, oh, we put everyone to sleep as a way of protecting the plane. Some people are still asleep. That kind of sucks. Most of us woke up. Some of us woke up and went on with life. But it's like actually, this thing is spreading. More and more
Hmm.
people are still falling asleep.
It's true. Okay. Yeah.
Um, and people are really nervous about that, which is why they won't touch. They don't know how it's happening, so they obviously don't want to go anywhere near
Of course.
um, the sleeper.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like of note, I guess, that
It's in
it
our
wasn't a one
world.
and done.
Exactly.
This is a this problem is getting
Ongoing.
worse.
Yeah. Eventually, the girl reveals herself to be Ruby, which is our little Gruul Manadork with the hood.
Mhm.
Ruby Hood. She's our
Talked
sleep.
about her a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Red Riding Hood. Um, but not until she mentions that her brother is missing and asks Kellen if he has seen him. So we have them talking about that kind of stuff, and um, they talk a lot about like heroes and families, and kind of like, oh well, I always stick with my family. Kellen says all the time, which I don't fucking understand, because no, you didn't. You just left.
I know he literally said that, and I was like, at the first opportunity that presented itself in this story, you left your family,
Mhm.
and you were bitching the whole time about how you hate your home. Like,
Yeah. It's like basically Kellen is thinking in his mind that his only family is his father, who he doesn't know. And so then he is doing
mhm.
everything in his power to get to his father or know more about his father, while leaving his real family behind and pretending that they're not actually his family, which is just, I mean, like, I know people do that, but it's just infuriating to just sit and listen to someone where you can't be like,
Yeah,
bro, like, no, you're fucking this shit up.
you were
Um,
not a family comes first kind of guy.
you're not. It's okay, man. That's fine. You don't have to be, but like, just don't say that you are, because you're just lying.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, they decide to team up. So Ruby will help Kellen with the witches and his father and all that stuff, and then Kellen's going to help Ruby find her brother. Um, and they head out towards Dunborough, where the witches are, I guess. Um,
Everybody
and
knows that. Yeah.
yeah, of course, that's where all the witches are.
It
And
was
they're
something like somebody there would know. I don't know.
yeah, somebody told them
There was
something.
a very loose like hook as to why they would decide to go there. But
Yeah,
also they're children, right? So it's like, I know we should go here because that's one of the places I know.
that I know exist. But on their travels, Kellen sees a bunch of scraps of metal that are just lying around by the side of the road. And this is where you're alluding to that Kellen actually doesn't understand what Phyrexians are. And Ruby has to explain the
Right.
Phyrexian War and what happened, because Kellen is homeschooled and is an idiot.
Yes. And there's an even more offensive to me thing that Kellen doesn't know that will come up in the next chapter where I was just like, okay, come on.
Like,
But
are you serious?
yeah.
Um, anyway, Kellen has a really hard time looking at the scraps of metal because they're just so gross. Um,
Yeah.
there's oh right, okay, so there's a pixie that's around
Mhm.
as they're getting closer to where they're trying to go, and it like throws an apple at Ruby. No, sorry, Ruby throws an apple at it. That's right.
Right.
um
No, the pixie like Ruby trips or something. Like the pixie plays some sort of mild prank and then
yeah.
laughs at Ruby. And so Ruby just pegs it with an apple,
Hmm.
basically.
And that's when Kellen's like, oh wow, Ruby has really good aim, and that's just going to be important, I guess, that is Ruby's better at fighting than Kellen. I think just like in our magic stories, like our female characters are just better at fighting than our male characters, and we should just
Yeah.
like, that's just how it is.
That should be the default assumption.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's just like this struck me as not that the author used many words on this pixie scene.
mhm.
It's just that you have so few words and way too much story to tell. Why is this pixie scene here? You can display that Ruby is dexterous in any number of ways.
Yes, and
And
we
like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to glean from this. That she's impulsive? Maybe. Like, I don't know. If a pixie was bugging me, I'd throw something at it too.
it's true, but like we have a moment right now where then we see an arrow fly by and graze Kellen's nose, and then we look over and we see a wolf knight. If
Mhm.
we know there's a couple cards that have a Wolf Knight on it in this set, but that is coming after them. And so now he's running away from that, and this is a perfect chance where we could actually use some of those skills that we don't have to have the pixie thing about.
Yeah, I wonder if the point is like, oh, I trust Ruby now, so I'll go along with her plan as we're running away from Wolf Knight because she threw that apple at the pixie. It's
Yeah,
like
we would have done it anyway.
such a stretch.
Yeah. So while they are running away, we see some witch stalkers, and witch stalkers are like these wolves that are scary. One is called Territorial Wolf Stalker from the set, which I guess they hunt magic, and Ruby is able to run right past them because they don't care about her, and Kellen is really worried that he's going to be magical and the witch stalkers are going to eat him. Because he believes that he is
It's
half.
a gamble because he's like, I'm half fairy.
I think. Oh no, he is told by the Italian that he is half fairy.
Right at this point, I mean, it's still fairies are known for trickery. So,
that's true.
But Kellen again is an idiot. So Kellen is 100% sure he's half fairy at this point.
Yeah. However, they don't seem to care about him. So hey, Kellen's alive. That's fantastic. All this seems a little bit not so. And then the witch stalkers end up getting fought by the Wolf Knight, and they kind of disappear into the woods. So it all kind of feels like nothing really mattered.
Yeah. The reason that I want to bring something up that I think we didn't quite mention is there's before they set off on this adventure,
okay,
Ruby says something like, "Oh, you're a hero. You don't even have a sword."
Oh, right.
And so Kellen reveals that Lord Talion gave him 2 hilts. So they are essentially like a sword without the blade.
Without the good part.
And so he just shows these like handles. And she's, I've got these. And he was also slightly worried that those might be magical.
Right. Because
which they are. Like, I don't think I'm spoiling anything to say that. So I don't really understand why the witch stalkers didn't care about him.
I don't really know either, because like he like throws one at one of the wolves, and it basically bounces off of him.
He throws it at the Wolf Knight. It bounces off and like flies right back to Kellen's hand. And Ruby's like, "Oh my god, I have to do everything." Like, come on.
And that seems pretty fucking magical to me. So I don't really understand.
Yeah.
But anyway, the whole reason we have this is so that we can have story spotlight number 4, which is Witch Stalker Frenzy, which is a fantastic removal spell, unlimited. I don't know. More about the Witch Knight and the Wolf Knight. Sorry, not the Witch Knight. In a little bit. But after this little thing happens, Kellen notices a cabin. And he also notices that it must be a witch's cabin for some reason.
Yeah, I mean,
sweet.
He's played enough Witch's Cabin from the original Eldraine set.
Oh, right.
Like.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they creep up to this cabin and look into the window, and they see a real live witch. And there is a cauldron there, as well as a knight that is tied up behind her. So Kellen is trying to think of a plan. All right, what do we do? So there's a witch and a knight, and we got to kill the witch. Let's split up. I'll sneak around the back, you sneak around the front, and we'll get her that way. But as he's doing that, he sees that now the Wolf Knight, it comes back and is going towards Ruby. And so he's like, okay, now do I go into the cabin, confront the witch, or do I try to help save Ruby, my new friend, from the Witch Knight? And he decides that fuck everyone he ever has emotional connections with, go inside and fight the witch. Yeah. Mind-boggling, this kid. Fucking marbles for
To
brains.
his credit, he sort of tried to justify it as the plan is go in, kill the witch, free the knight, have the knight kill the Wolf Knight, and therefore everything is hunky-dory.
All right. I will give you that, but I still just see it as another abandonment of his friend. But
for sure, it's a theme. Yeah. It's a theme. The other theme that starts here, I would argue, and continues throughout, which I actually think is kind of interesting, is that Kellen thinks he has plot armor which of course he does, being the main character of the story. But I
Hmm.
mean, like,
Oh.
yeah, he knows all these hero tales, and he's already decided that he's a hero, or he's gonna be a hero,
Hmm.
which means he can't. He believes like he can't actually die. He will sort of
Hmm.
meet adversity, but will overcome it because the
No
hero
matter what.
always does.
Hmm.
And that's why he's just like, let's just improvise. Let's run in there. Like, I don't need a
Yeah.
plan. I'm the hero. And
Yes.
it's like classic, like a little kid who's read too many stories,
Hmm.
except that this is also one of those stories, which I thought was interesting, like sort
Yeah.
of self-awareness that the author put in there.
All right. I like
It's
that.
like infuriating because it's like, I'm so annoyed that he's right, but he's like
Hmm.
so stupid, but he does have plot armor.
Yeah. And this is exactly what happens is that Kellen sneaks into the cabin. He sees the witch, Agatha, by her cauldron, Agatha's cauldron, and he just pushes her in the cauldron and she dies instantly. Like,
Yeah, I'm sort of curious about the setup this witch had. Like, did she had a raised platform and then a massive fucking bubbling cauldron right below? Like this is like a Mortal Kombat.
I
Like I
guess.
uppercut you and you're
And then
fucking dead.
you fly
Like
up. It's yeah, that's exactly what happens because that's story spotlight number 5. Feed the cauldron, um, which just shows him pushing her in, and apparently that was it, and that's it. Like that's literally Agatha in the story. That's it. That's what happens. She
yeah.
never speaks really. I guess she might like sing or something when we hear it, but like, all right,
But like
first
how
one.
big is this kid? If there's a full grown adult and the cauldron's just like at my waist, you know, kid's not pushing me in there.
I know, but you're not a witch. How
I
old is
see.
Agatha? I don't
Yeah.
know. Does she look super
I don't
old?
know. The art makes him look the same size as her too. And it's like,
It's true. It does.
how old is Kellen? Because he does these
I
athletic things that you don't think an 8-year-old can do. But then he speaks like either the world's dumbest teenager or an 8-year-old.
yeah, I don't know. She looks pretty tall. I think that if you just like if she was leaning over it like trying to sip
It's
it
like
and
at
then
her hip,
yeah.
basically. So
Yeah, it
you'd have to hit her in the upper body to lever her, or I guess like grab her legs and like do some
head
sort of WWF kind of.
if you like go in and headbutt her in the butt and then she falls in, maybe. But like the picture,
She was like leaning over it,
yeah, about to sip it, but she looks like
like
she's falling in sideways in the picture. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The physics don't really make sense to me, but it happens. She's dead. Hooray!
yeah,
Um,
insta death.
Insta death. The knight is very thankful that was tied up, and the knight also happens to have one wooden arm and owns a hammer. So that's Imodane, and
Yeah,
Agatha must obviously be the witch that she ran into the woods to talk to earlier.
right. She
Um,
ran away from Rowan, ran right into Agatha. Agatha was like, "Are you pure of heart?
mhm.
Because I want to eat you." I
Yeah,
guess was the line that we missed.
yes,
Um,
because that's really important so that she can be younger and sprier, so she doesn't fall into her cauldron. Uh,
yeah, and also Agatha spent the whole time like taunting Imogen, just saying, "I'm going to eat you. Do you know what spices you taste nice with?" Yada yada yada, and
right,
that's what
right, right,
gave
right.
Kellen the opportunity to basically walk right in and push her into her own dungeon.
Yeah, brewing, classic brewing blindness. Um,
Yep.
So Ruby bursts in because the Wolf Knight is after them. Now Kellen is trying to get Imodane up to protect them, except for Imodane is super fucked up from something. We don't know. She does not. She didn't look like this when she like left the fight earlier. So something fucked
Yeah.
her up in the woods before she got
So
here.
it is the Wolf Knight that messed her up. So the
Yes.
Wolf Knight was under Agatha's. Oh, I guess we haven't said that part yet.
Well, we're getting to
Wolf
that right
Knight,
now. Would you go ahead?
the Wolf Knight bursts in and then is like, "Oh, Ruby, hey, I've been looking everywhere for you." And they're like, "Dude, you just tried to kill us." And he's like, "It's me, your brother, Peter." And, and they're like, "Oh, Peter, we came to find you." Turns out Peter, the Wolf Knight, was under Agatha's spell,
Hmm.
and he basically looks to Imodan and be like, "Sorry, I was under her spell. That's why I fucked you up so bad." And Imodan was like, "Okay, it was 2 against 1 though, just so you know. Like it was you and the witch, so that was
Yeah, that's
not an
why I got
unfair
hurt.
fight."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Peter's just like, "Whatever." I'm reuniting with sister. So if you could like not be in the scene anymore, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then she fucking just, I guess, leaves. Um, and then they want to prove to Lord Talion that they did in fact kill the witch. So they're like, hey, let's take her cauldron. And so Peter agrees to carry the cauldron because he's the adult in the situation, and he's strong. And they do that. Um,
Now I'm just imagining like, is he just like, okay, back up, and then he dumps this disgusting, like who knows what happened to the body at this point. Like he's not
Yeah.
gonna carry it full of the
Full
death
of
liquid, right? It's
probably
just
not.
like, yeah, give me a sec.
Yeah.
Dumps it out on the floor.
The hot
Body
soup.
of the witch, Magma
Yeah.
the witch, just like bouncing around, eyeballs everywhere and shit.
They dump it out and it's like the skeleton of the witch, but like she has a witch's hat, like the classic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of her
And then in the
skeleton.
back with the garden hose, just like rinsing
Yeah.
it off a bit.
And he flips it over his head and carries it like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so they go to Lord Talion, somehow getting there. I'm not exactly sure how they know how to get there right now because later they
I
have
think like Talion opens the portal for them. They just kind of walk out and he's
he
there.
just knows. That's, well, I guess that's great for them. So Talion gives Kellen the task of finding the mirror of Indralon, because Hilda conceals herself, so she's like invisible, and you have to use the mirror to figure out where she is, I guess. However, don't worry, I know exactly where the mirror is. I also really, simply the other day I like planted some beans, and now there's a beanstalk you can climb to get to the castle in the clouds where the mirror is. So lucky for you, I already did all this hard work for you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. It's like I knew that you were coming to the portal, but I guess he did because he put the portal out by his house in the first place. So, it's all Talion's master plan. Also, Ruby decides that she will also come along, or I think Kellen asks her. I can't remember exactly how that went down, but
it's basically like Kellyan's like, man, you threw that apple real good. I'm gonna need you by my side. And Ruby's like, man, you pushed that witch into that cauldron. Like, you are a hero. Let's go.
Let's go. And Peter's like, you know what? I kind of tired from carrying the cauldron all the way over here. So
it's really heavy, guys.
Guys, I'm gonna take a breather for an episode. You guys go on. I'll see you in the next one.
Maybe Talion could have just maybe we just could have taken her witch's hat or something instead of the cauldron. But yeah, I'm gonna have to sit this one out. In retrospect, it wasn't a great idea to carry the big ass cauldron for no reason.
Anyway, that is the end of episode 2. That was a lot of stuff to get through in the first 2. I wasn't thinking it was going to take that long. Hopefully, we can blaze through next few of these. But before we blaze through the next ones,
about these, I'm like, nothing happened. We'll talk about it instantly. And I'm like, how does nothing happen? But this was in there. That's what I'm going to object to.
It happens every Drunken Vorthos. So get ready for the rest of this because it's going to be a ride. But Jeff, before that, let's get our next beer and go on a beer break.
I miss beer breaks.
I love beer breaks. All right. So we have our second beer of the evening, 204, and this is Hacker Shore. This is their Keller beer, which is like a unfiltered lager. It is, as I finish pouring it, I want to look at the specs. So this beer is from Germany. It's 5.5%, and it was founded in 1417. That's the actual one. There's a little thing on the can that says the Bavarian Purity Law, which is 1516. However, up at the top, we can obviously say that the brewery started in 1417.
Things barely 600 years old. Come on.
Yeah, crazy. All right. So let us get back right into stuff because, that's what we're here for. It is episode number 3.
Not. We're supposed to be on tangents and beat around the bush a lot and not really talk about what
how about that's your job? I'll try to keep us on track and you'll be over. So far, I think you're winning. So this is episode 3, Two Great Banquets. So we open on Rowan for whatever reason, is at this tavern, and she's reading a letter that Will sent her. It's just basically him not apologizing. I'm
It's a
pretty
real
sure.
dick move what
Hmm.
he says, but I could also totally see this like during a sibling dispute.
Hmm.
The whole "I'm never going to admit that I'm wrong. You should see the error of your ways."
Like, I know more. You always do this. You run away
Like, I
from your
got higher grades
problems.
at Strixhaven. Don't
Hmm.
you remember that?
Yeah.
Like,
And I want her to slide in and I'm the one who stopped the demon thing and you lost your leg. Do you remember that part? Like,
nerd.
your grades did not fucking matter at that school. Um, anyway, uh, so
Yeah, I'm kind of
she,
surprised that experience didn't humble Will a little bit.
yeah, he, like that. What whole? Okay, I know you're trying to get me off topic, but here you go. Okay, so Rowan heads out to Ardenvale, and as she approaches, she sees more and more of this purple, like wicked slumber mist stuff. And so Rowan blasts a hole through the gates of Ardenvale, and then she sees all these like slumbering knights that are actually moving around and like kind of fight her.
Yeah,
And she can't really
I
talk
love.
to them or reason with them. They're all like asleep, obviously.
Yeah, sort of zombies, but not
Hmm.
really. They're alive. They're
Hmm.
sleeping. They're just sort of clearly in a trance.
Hmm.
Um, I just love the idea that she blasted the gates open. Like that's the mood she's in, because
Yeah.
like she definitely knows how to get through this gate. Like she
Yeah.
lived there her whole life.
Hmm. It's like, you know what? Fuck
Just
this.
like the gate
Um,
explodes, like shatters everywhere.
this actual moment of her walking through reminds me a lot of when we were in Thraben during Innistrad with the zombies, because Rowan knows all the different knights that are asleep
Right.
personally, because this is her old home. And so it has that same semblance of like when we were in Thraben with somebody, finding somebody's dad. I can't remember. Um,
Right. Right.
but that was just, it's by the same author and it felt exactly the same to me, which is cool. That tie-in
Yeah.
was really nice. um
This is one of those things I feel like the author does pretty well.
yes.
Um, yeah, like these would have been knights she probably grew up with,
Hmm.
right? And they followed like knighthood,
Yeah, like
and she
could
had
have.
like tactics classes with them or whatever.
Hmm. Which she has already said that she's always been much better than Will. He's always struggled and she's always been superior. So
Yeah,
these were people that taught her
doesn't really
skills.
seem like there's anything that Will is better at. He just thinks he's better at it.
He's cooler than her.
Ah, she's got the hothead.
Yeah. Oh god. um anyway, so she does her best to kind of fight them off, but without harming anybody and not actually like hurting people. um
Yeah, which is nice. Like it shows that she's pissed, but
mhm.
she's not in a "I'm gonna blow a hole in my old friend's
Yeah,
face" kind of pissed.
it
Like,
also shows that she is tactical and she is smart and
right,
can understand that this is a temporary problem that she's trying to fix, and that she doesn't want to damage anyone in the process. And she has a heart. Like, it's all the things that Will was kind of saying that she doesn't have, and just like, no, I have all that stuff. Like, it's not just you.
right.
Like, I'm not this crazy
Just because I
mountain
wear my heart on my
destroying.
sleeve doesn't mean
Yeah,
I'm not like a thinker.
yeah, classic blue mages against red mages, you know. um
Yeah.
So as she enters the interior of Ardenvale, it looks as though there's like some sort of celebration going on. I guess there's like a lot more people in fine clothing and people dancing together, which then reminds me of the wedding. Um, and so
Yeah.
it's all getting these weird, like going into a castle with like, I don't know, all these Innistrad stuff. It feels like it's coming back. It's all very eerie. Um, and as Rowan walks past all these dancing couples, they look so nice, and then they kind of like try to grab her, which she artfully dodges. Um, which is bringing us to our story spotlight number 6, which is Eerie Interference, a card that I don't even remember what it does. So
Isn't this like the fog? I think
yeah,
it's a fog.
it's a white fog,
I
which
can't
is,
open the link that you have, but oh yeah, it's the one-sided fog. Right.
yeah, that is just not really worth playing. Um, anyway, so she keeps trudging in, dodging blows, and then she finally has a hand that grabs her, and there's a figure that reveals themselves, and it is Ashiok, who Rowan knows for some reason. I don't really know. Did they ever meet? Uh,
So I was thinking about that as well, and I reread it, and the way I now interpret that scene, which could also be wrong, is that like uh the name Ashiok comes into her head, or like it's like
oh,
it's how Ashiok communicates or speaks.
got it. Because so
Um,
Ashiok is our like nightmare planeswalker that doesn't have a mouth.
I don't
Mm,
think so. I think they communicate telepathically.
yeah, but I don't know if they like literally don't have a mouth. Um, but
No, I
yeah,
think they have a mouth, but they probably only unleash random like horrific screams or something. I don't know.
that.
If that's how I read when I reread it, because I was like, why would they know each other?
Mhm.
When I reread it, I was like, I wonder if it's like, oh, and then there's a figure, and then like the name Ashiok or something, kind of.
Just pops in. I mean
Yeah,
that.
and so it feels like you recognize them or whatever because you're being told.
Yeah,
Are you doing a mouth search now?
Ashiok definitely has a mouth. Ashiok does not have
Yeah,
eyes. That's the one.
right. Yeah.
Ashiok has no eyes. Um, but yeah, sorry, mouth search real quick. Um, yeah, so okay, that makes a lot more sense. That it's just kind of like put into her mind as opposed to her actually recognizing Ashiok, being like, "Hey there, buddy," which is what it felt
Right.
like
Which
to
then it
me.
again is like, is this because Ashiok communicates and
Hmm.
or like is the nightmare mass puppeteer?
Hmm.
It's like, is this a dream? Is this real?
Like,
Like
what
they're in
parts
that
of
sort of fugue like state where Ashiok can just put things in your mind.
yeah, and then you start to think like, well, if Ashiok's around, how much of the things we experience or have seen, how much of it is real? Is the
Hmm.
Spider Woman real? We don't know. That could have been a dream. Um, or at least we can blame it on Ashiok if anything seems off. Anyway,
Right. Was seeing her parents the only dream, or was the whole thing a dream?
yeah, exactly.
Dream within a
So,
dream.
oh shit, Eldraine Inception. Um, so Ashiok denies being the source of the slumber, which is and just yeah points past the purple, which is a thing that
And
we
we
were
all believe her.
them. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes,
Um,
believe them.
but so there's a woman sitting at the table who lifts up a goblet to Rowan and invites Rowan to sit down with her, and she has a shining apple next to her. So obviously this is Ariette. Another one of those things where like we get a bunch of explaining things and we have to just infer this is the other witch, but we know because we have the cards and the art. Um, so sorry, as I'm trying to stifle a burp. Um, so this next part is actually kind of interesting. So it seems as though Ariette was the one sending Rowan those dreams. So Ariette also has dream powers, which is interesting to me because I would assume that the only reason Ashiok is there is to do the dream stuff. However, Ashiok seemingly has no purpose. I really don't understand why Ashiok is here in the story at all.
Yeah, I so maybe this is a bit of a spoiler because I was wondering that the whole time,
Hmm.
and I only sort of started thinking this by what happens at the very end. But
Yeah. Should we
um,
wait until the end to talk about it, or
yeah, maybe we'll say right now. There's
something happens?
why is Ashiok here?
Because I honestly at this moment I have no idea because it's so strange that Ariette's like, yeah, I sent you that vision. Remember when you had that dream about your dad at Ardenvale and stuff? Yeah, I sent that to you.
Right.
Um, but it's because uh, we have like blood. We're blood relatives. Um, so we find out talking with her is like Will and Rowan's real mother was Ariette's sister, who Kenrith killed and saved the twins from. So I think in their history, we know that uh, the King Kenrith had saved the children from a witch, and then his wife, Queen Linden, was not their real mother. However, now we're realizing that, like, okay, so Ariette's sister was their mom. Was King Kenrith really their dad? did he fuck a witch and then have these twins and then come back and get them? Because that sounds like a very White King thing to do, and I think that that's definitely what happened.
Yeah, so he banged the witch. She
Yeah,
had kids, and then he came back and killed that witch
to take the kids.
to take the kids and I guess Lyndon.
Yeah, which is we will talk about later what role that witch played in the whole thing. But yeah,
And
so
this is
he
one of those instances where I feel like um, Rowan believes this awfully quickly. Like a witch is telling me that my mom's a witch.
yeah.
And she's like,
Well,
that all makes sense. Well, fuck.
I mean, like it's interesting because to me, all I've known from Rowan is that like her broen, her brother misunderstands her constantly, and they still don't really understand why they are planeswalkers and have magic powers, and their dad does not, and their mom, Queen Linden. We know that Queen Linden isn't their mom, but their dad doesn't really have powers, so it's kind of like, where did this come from? Why are we these magic beings? I don't really understand. Um, Not only why are we planeswalkers, but why do we have like ice powers or whatever? And fire, or I guess she has lightning powers. It's not actually fire. Um,
I felt like
but
she was using fire in Strixhaven or something, right? Or was it still
no,
lightning?
I think it's just all lightning because she crackles
Oh,
with
it's been
power,
lightning.
right? Yeah,
Right, okay.
they're very specific with who does fire and who does lightning, and
Mm-hmm. Except Jaya did both.
yeah, because Jaya is awesome, but Chandra's only does fire.
Was awesome.
Sorry, yeah, Jaya was awesome before she got fucking wrecked. Go check out Dominaria United for that one.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so we know
Anyways, it
that.
just happens a bit too quickly. I agree that, like, yeah, she's validating Ron's feelings, which no one ever really does.
Mhm.
But it's still like, this is a fucking witch, man. Don't just take their word for it. Kellen's at least 8 when he takes the fucking
It's
tricky fairy god's like word for something.
it's true, but we know that Rowan is like ostracized. She's ostracized herself from society and has no real friends, and will not apologize to her brother, and is just looking for a partner. I didn't actually have a hard time jumping on board with this. It kind of just like, I was like sick, just because of the way that she interacts with the entire world. Um, Seems like
It's
she
interesting
just.
because, like, these stories are so short and they have so much to
Mhm.
fit in that, like, in a novel, I would expect some more background about her wondering about her real mom and stuff,
Totally.
like, and then Arya just being there with everything she needs at the right time.
Well, I'm really glad that we didn't have more of that because Kellen gives us enough of that with his dad. I didn't need
Yeah,
another story with the
no,
mom.
like, I'm glad that wasn't included, but it
Yeah,
still does kind of feel like Arya's just like, hey, jump on board with my plan.
yeah.
And
I
Rowan's like, you know
guess.
what, my brother's a dick, so yes.
Mhm. I think it did. Yeah, having the backstory of like Will and Rowan at Strixhaven and how annoying that was, being like, yeah, Rowan is Rowan. Rowan just feels out of place, you know. Um,
Yeah,
Even though most of that story was Will feeling like he's ostracized, but he's just a little bitch. He's so annoying.
yeah. It's a real
He's
drag, man.
all the fucking God. They're so annoying. Anyway, so we know that Kenrith fucked a witch and
He
then
would
killed
be
her.
blue white, wouldn't he?
Yeah, care about life gain. Anyway, we know that King Kenrith is kind of a scumbag, and now I don't really like him anymore. Like,
But that's the
whatever.
other thing. She doesn't seem to lose any respect for her father from this
That's
revelation.
true. That's crazy. I guess she always just
I
kind
would
of
be like, Dad, what?
the
You
fuck,
killed my mom to take my stepmom
like
and
that's
me, I
and
guess.
in me, it's so weird. Anyway, um, so but like, you know, on the same side, King Kenrith with a witch, like, must have been a magical night. Um, Anyway, Ariette fully explains all the things, and Rowan's just immediately on board and like joins her, being like, Ariette also can like control the slumbering dreaming people, and she's explaining that like the wicked slumber isn't a bad thing for them. Like everyone who's asleep is living a perfect world. Like everything that they want, all their dreams are coming true. It's not like they're in hell or like some sort of, I
It's
don't know.
very like Matrixy.
Yeah, exactly. They took the, I don't remember which pill, but
Ooh,
They took the blue one.
it's a guess.
I don't know. I took both of them when
Wiki
they gave
Bit.
them to me. So, um,
Yeah, yeah. What happens when you take both? Dan?
yeah, you split apart. You have one Will and one Rowan, and that's what happens. Um, yeah, interesting. Should they do another Matrix thing with Will and Rowan, and you have to like they have their? I guess no,
It's the next universes
because
beyond.
yeah, the Will pills or the Rowan pills. Um,
Will, Rowan, and Neo.
yeah, Neo.
Morpheus.
All right. Enough of that. So Rowan decides, you know what? The sleeping people are fine. Nothing's wrong with that. Let's just practice the magic with my cool anti-Ariet. And we get story spotlight number 7, Twisted Fealty, one of our 2 threaten effects in the set.
Yes.
And
Now, I was actually going to say I liked the inclusion, however brief, of the apple in the
yes.
scene, because the apple is the other threaten effect. So even though while it's like it's not a story spotlight, I like there's no real reason to write the apple in there other than the witch and the poison apple like scheme. But it's not like anybody eats that poisoned apple, so it didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But I like that they included it.
I will also wonder,
Ariet's thing.
You know, the apple is just mentioned or there, but how much of that apple do you have to eat for it to affect you to switch sides? Because maybe just the presence of the apple also helps.
Yeah, and I was wondering that as well, because the apple is like a threaten effect in the game.
So that could be a reason why Rowan joins her side very quickly.
Yes.
Very interesting. Hey, all right, okay. Okay, Arsenal Rivera, I see you. I like this. I mean, I'm sure that
Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but
I mean, it makes me like the story more, and anytime I can like something more, I'm gonna take it.
And that's something you have to do as the author here, where again you just have not enough words, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the theme that keeps coming up. You can rely on people knowing what the card does to reference something to tell a bit more story.
It's
so
true.
If that's what they're doing here, that's great.
I just hope that they have access to seeing any cards before the story is written, because I don't know how much they get to know about the cards.
If they just didn't know that, then like they must know that Ariet's sort of
for sure they know
other
that.
than dream power is like convincing people or like the one thing I wanted to call out too before I forget, Ariet mentions that Rowan's mother was like the most fucked of them all. Like she was the evilest of the
witches. Yeah.
So whether you trust Ariet or not, she was like, man, that bitch was bad.
So then it's also like, it's okay that she died, but like I'm better.
It's okay that your dad killed her, to be honest.
Yeah, she was kind of horrible. Which in our story, Ariet is the worst one. So
yeah.
All right, so we are going to just stark cut to Kellen, Ruby, and Troyan, a new character, climbing up a beanstalk. Now,
best character in the whole.
Yeah, you like Troyan?
Story.
So Troyan is the gold signpost uncommon for the Simic Guild. It's the Vidalkin.
Makes me like him less.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised that you liked him in the first place. But he on his card he's climbing up or going down the beanstalk. I guess I can't really tell. But that goes to our story spotlight number 8, up the beanstalk. The card that is wrecking Modern right now. All right, so Troyan gives. So they're going up the beanstalk, and holy shit, is it taking forever? Because it's really you know what, it takes a long time to climb a tree up to the clouds. Who thought?
I really liked this because that's always like brushed away. It's like, we have this fairy tale, you just climb up the beanstalk and then you go to visit the cloud giants. It's like, okay, how long is there other magic that's going on here? Like that's always just washed over. And this one was like Peter hired a guide to take them up because it's not easy to climb a fucking beanstalk, let alone climb one that's however many however many like fractions of Mount Everest it is. It's like this
Yeah.
is not just a trivial
Thing.
task.
Yeah. Also, they're 8.
Yeah, it's an 8-year-old climbing
It's an
Mount
8-year-old.
Everest.
So
Except it's just like the ropes in gym class.
it's just like that. But they're leaves, and so they break sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they just snap.
So Troyan gives Kellen this weird potion without telling him what it is, and he's just like, "This is just gonna help you. Just,
Yeah, yeah.
just trust me."
Trust me. Yeah.
And so
And
Kellen's
Kellen's like,
like,
okay, I trust you
"Yeah, to be
because
fair,
you're a good climber.
I would probably do it too, depending what it looked like. I will drink most things. So, sure, weird blue guy.
And Kellen's
Yeah.
like, are you sure it's a bronze spear? Zach's like,
Mhm.
never mind.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I made
one
it.
thing I won't drink.
I made this beer. Never mind. I won't. I
No,
won't
no,
drink
no,
that.
no, 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 no,
No,
no.
no, 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 no. Anyway, so Kellen drinks the potion and he turns into a big fucking frog. Which was so surprising. I just had no idea what I was expecting. And like nothing in the set makes you know that there's a fucking frog making
Potion
potion.
of Frogify.
Yeah. Like we don't have there's a card. Isn't there Pongify? There's a card that turns things into no, that turns them into like monkeys, right? What's the thing that turns them into a frog? I don't remember. Anyway, we don't
I
have
think it's
that.
frog. I think it's just called Frogify.
Is it just called Frogify?
I think so.
Was there one in Theros that was called Fishify? No, it was something really long and complicated, but you turn him into a fish. Anyway,
Yeah, Frogify is from original Throne of Eldraine, and it turns him into a frog.
why the fuck did we not get Frogify again? I am so mad because that's
But okay,
obviously.
but this maybe
Oh
maybe the
right,
author, like the author definitely know about this card, but they
yes,
from original Throne, maybe they didn't actually know what cards are out. They're like, I have to reference like the
something.
previous set's cards.
Also, to be fair, Frogify does not help your creature; it makes it worse. While very
Usually
uh, this frog potion is actually very
proves
good
a
for
low
you.
one.
It makes your creature very strong and have flying kind of. I guess it reach.
I think they're just like jumping up the beanstalk at a
Yeah.
more
Is
accelerated pace because
so now Kellen has turned into a frog, and Ruby climbs on his back, and they hop up to the top to
yeah,
Stormkeld. Important at this moment is that Troyan gave Kellen 2 potions, one for Ruby and one for Kellen. Ruby did not want to drink the potion, and so Kellen just stashed that one for later.
yeah.
Maybe, probably not, but like
If it comes up,
yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
um, so they get up to Stormkeld, which is the castle, and they run over to the castle, but it takes fucking forever. So now it's nighttime because, well, you have to climb up a giant beanstalk and then walk on clouds until you get to a castle. It just takes a really long time.
So what I
All right.
liked about the Troyan thing was like, okay, he was hired for to guide them up. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like basically what he did is just like run ahead and wait for them. And he's like, all right, guys, like, come on.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're not master beanstalk climbers. And he's like, what? This is my first time climbing a beanstalk. I've never even fucking seen a giant beanstalk. And they're like, okay, well, we paid you a lot of money to help us get up. And all you're doing is like running ahead, making it look easy. That's not actually helping. He's like, you know what? That's a pretty good point. Here, have this
Yeah.
potion of Frogify.
Right.
Just like the way that all transpired. It's like because we've all had the teacher where they just show you that they're better than you at it, and it's like, okay, but it's not how teaching works. Like that's like your how you market yourself. You prove to me that you're better than me at it, so I
Mm-hmm.
hire you as a teacher. Now that I've hired you, you help me.
Yeah.
And it's just like running up and then being like, man, you guys are so slow. You're the guide.
Yeah. Anyway, uh
Great character. Because then he's just like, you know what? You are right. You are correct. You paid me a lot of money. Here,
well,
have these
it is good
I could have
because
just given you at the beginning, I guess.
they continue to go, I think, in frog form towards the castle, and they leave Troyan behind. Um, and so at that moment, I thought that we were just leaving him at the beanstalk, and it was just like, okay, bye. we're gonna go, but then he ends up catching up to them, and there was no reason that they did that at all.
Because he's a good climber. So
Yeah,
he
he
just climbed
moves
on his own.
quickly. Anyway, um, I just meant I thought that they got to the castle and just like were like, fuck Troyan, like he's not going to come to the castle with us, and then he did, and I was like, why did we
I
even
think
talk
there
about
was a
this?
line where they were like, he'll catch up.
Yeah, or something. I just don't know why it matters. Like
Yeah.
that's basically
Because
what I mean.
Troyan, okay, I don't want to give anything away, but it's quite important
Okay.
for the rest of the story.
All right, so we're coming towards the castle, and we're thinking that because it's nighttime, we can sneak up on the giants and get to the mirror while they're asleep. However, the ground keeps shaking every once in a while in about like a 6/8 pattern. 6/8, yeah, 6/8. And they're trying to figure out why 6/8.
So this is why Troyan is so. I don't know really. I think a waltz is a 6/8.
Yeah.
I'm not high society enough. They so they get there and they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do?"
Yeah.
And then Troyan shows up, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Troyan, there's earthquakes, man. What do we do?" And Troyan's like, "Ho ho ho ho! Why don't you try counting these alleged earthquakes, you fools?"
Mm-hmm.
And then Ruby's like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's in 6/8. This isn't an earthquake. They're dancing." And then Kellen doesn't fucking know what dancing is.
Oh.
No joke. He's legitimately like, dancing? What's that? And like keeps counting, trying to figure it out on his own. And then Ruby's like, they're doing a waltz, and he's like, huh? And he's like, well, I did see my mom and my stepdad like twirling around one time. Maybe that's what they're talking about. And I was like, okay, Kellen doesn't know what the Phyrexians are. Fine. Nobody
Yeah.
told him. Kellen doesn't know what dancing is. Fuck off.
Oh.
Come on. My toddler
Oh.
dances. Get out
Yeah.
of here.
Oh. I forgot about that part, and I'm from a sheep town. We don't dance.
Yeah, never
He's
heard
from
of
one
it.
of those footloose towns where like it's banned.
Yeah.
You know, like Kellen.
He can bring it back to the town and be like, guys, in the realm of the giants, I discovered this magical
Check
thing.
this out, and he's just dancing with like a sheep.
Yeah.
All right.
That
Anyway,
was the one where I was like, okay, you gotta give me a break, Kay. I'm just gonna call her Kay or them Kay from now on.
yeah.
Give me a break, Kay.
Okay. Jeez. So they still go in trying to sneak by because the giants may not be sleeping, but they are distracted with their dancing. But they do
Also,
run.
like, these people are tiny. It's like
Yeah,
you're dancing a waltz and you're expected to notice an ant going by.
exactly. So they sneak by, but they do run into a goose. But the goose is, of course, a giant-sized goose, and so they're running for their lives because the goose is trying to eat them. Because, of course, that's what would
It's a
happen.
goose.
It's a goose.
And it's giant sized, but still much smaller than the giants. So it
Yes,
notices them rather quickly.
because it's goose. It's a goose-sized
It's
goose
also
to a
golden.
giant.
The author mentioned that this goose is gold.
That's a golden goose.
So this is gilded goose, but giant, I guess.
Maybe was gilded goose always giant? We don't know.
Well,
Probably.
I don't think so.
Um,
It's just an O2.
yeah, but it's not an O1 like Birds of Paradise. So
Maybe that's why, because it's friggin' massive. I thought it was just because it was made of metal.
I mean, there could be that too. I mean, gilded goose does look large-ish. It's big. It's a big goose. Anyway,
There's another reference to a Throne of Eldraine card. I do like that they're peppering these in.
it's smart.
Like, there's no reason for this goose to even be in the story, to be honest. But they were like, how do we get a golden goose in this story?
It's great. I was surprised it wasn't the mother goose, which is the new card, but whatever.
Yeah, which may lend credence to your theory that they may not have access to all of the new cards, if any.
Just certain characters. Anyway, so as they're running away from this goose, Kellen gets pinched by the shirt and picked up by a giant. Oh, fuck. Great. Now
Ruh-roh.
they're going to grind my bones to make their bread. So it turns out that the giant is Baluna Grand Squall, who is our teamer adventure person. And it's her birthday. And Baluna really wants to feed Kellen to the goose for her birthday. But her dad doesn't think it's a good idea. And that's super rude. Thank God for her dad, who is Yorvo. If you remember Yorvo from Throne of Eldraine, who cared about it was just like a mono green creature. Yay, Yorvo saving the day, coming in clutch.
Vorthos, extremely powerful card, which put it maybe in the top 50 Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah, definitely down there. Anyway, Yorvo explains that they are our guests, and as Kellen is trying to plead and say, I'm just here to ask the mirror a question. I'm not trying to steal anything, and because they're very wary of people climbing up beanstalks and stealing things from them, because it happens all the time. So they really, really hate it. But Kellen's
not their favorite.
Yeah, Kellen swears
they're just trying to dance. It's a birthday party.
Like what the fuck? And normally they just feed them to the goose, so that's why it's a whole thing. This is the kind of like Godfather moment for Yorvo, where he's like, no, it's the day of my daughter's birthday.
Also, probably sees that it's a child.
Mm-hmm. This 8-year-old kid. So Yorvo says, that's fine. You can ask the mirror a question, just don't take anything. And they're like, sweet, that sounds awesome.
We couldn't if we wanted to. It's all fucking huge.
I'm not that strong.
Yeah.
So the mirror will not give you any information unless you can give it information that it doesn't already know, which our buddy Troyan is able to help us out. He says that he wasn't born on Eldraine, which us as the audience already knows because he's Veldalkin, which is not a race on Eldraine. But the mirror is like, holy shit, that's so fucking cool. Hilda is near Loch Laurent, which Ruby actually happens to know where that is because her and her brother used to go fishing there.
Yes. Troyan is from Ravnica, I believe, based on the flavor text on his card.
That makes a lot of sense because that's where a lot of Vidalkins are. Also, he's Simic, so that makes sense. I like a lot. Oh, and with that, we are now moving on to episode 4, Ruby and the Frozen Heart. Woof. So many things. We've come so far. We only have 2 left. It's almost sad. I'm
gonna miss Troyan.
Yeah, he's kind of gone now. I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't give you a proper send-off. We just kind of blazed through it. But
yeah,
I'm just surprised that you like him so much because I guess
it was all just about like not doing his job at all.
And
being called out about that and being like, yeah, you're right, all right.
Yeah, all right.
And like caving immediately, be like, you're right. I wasn't
you got
doing
me.
my job. So it wasn't just being a dick. He was just like, just bad at his job.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
That is nice. That is different than we don't always get those fun characters.
And then also like, come on, they couldn't have like, did this character really need to be there? They couldn't have anyone else say anything else to the mirror. It had to be like a random guy who wasn't from Eldraine. Say, I'm not from Eldraine. I do know why they did it because they want multiple references to Eldraine. It's not the only place in the world.
Yes,
because,
that's very.
That we'll see later.
That's important. So Troyan saying that he's not from Eldraine is a good plant for later. Thank you for reminding me because I forgot. But we are moving to episode 4, Ruby and the Frozen Heart. So Kellen and Ruby head back to Edgewall, of course, avoiding all the purple strands of slumber.
Problem with this one as well. Go on.
All right, I'm ready for all your problems. I actually have the same problems. So they're, of course, discussing heroes again, and Kellen believes that Ruby is a hero, but Kellen himself is not, which is very strange. I would think it would be the opposite, but whatever.
Especially since he definitely does think he's a hero. So this
Yeah,
was just like,
just like a weird.
yeah, this is just him like spitting game or something. I don't know.
Is
Like,
he
no, you're the
into
hero, not me.
spitting game? Is he trying to fuck Ruby?
I don't know. He's somewhere between the ages of 8 and 17, and
Yeah,
depending on
so
what his actual age
ages.
is, I would say his motivations might differ.
He's trying to hold her hand or something
Yeah.
else. Anyway, but Ruby says that a hero is someone who always does the right thing, someone who makes people's lives better. So we also have Peter is going to come along with us, and he's giving them really warm clothes because he's telling them that the closer you get to Loch Laurent, which apparently is a place that a bunch of people have tried to go before,
Yeah.
because they know this witch is there. They know that Cruel Hilda is there. It gets so cold that you either have to turn back or you literally die. And there are people that have done that. And so Peter's like, "Hey, 8-year-olds, just go until you're too cold and then come back and then I'll go and then we'll do it." Um,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this? Is
Especially since
insane.
during the hero conversation, Ruby says Peter is the hero because he raised me alone and also was like our village's top hunter or something.
Yeah, it's like,
And it's just like it doesn't vibe with me. It doesn't like add up to me that Peter would be the guy that raised his little sister all on his own and then is like,
and then
yeah, run into this place where I know everyone has died who tried, but like wear a coat.
yeah,
Like,
it doesn't.
no, he would absolutely be like, no, you cannot go.
No, but Peter is really tired from carrying the cauldron from before.
Oh, I
Right?
forgot about
Yeah,
the call.
yeah. It was really heavy. Uh,
Yeah.
so
And it's
I,
just like it
it's just,
doesn't add up that the same character that's the same character that does both of those things.
I know it.
And also he even mentions like Imodane tried it and had to turn back.
Right,
And
and
this is supposed to
even
be like the legendary hero that
who has
is
fire
stronger
powers, who can stay
right.
warm because of the
Yeah.
fire.
So
Because yeah,
and
I
then
don't.
he's like, but you hey sis,
Hey,
if your nose gets cold, come back.
there you go, 8-year-olds. Anyway, before they leave, they see that in the town square, there's a bunch of children that are dressed up like Kellen and Ruby. They have like these like wool coats and these like red hoods, and they're
Mhm.
watching this puppet show retelling their triumph over Agatha and the cauldron and the whole thing, which
Yeah.
is our story spotlight number 9, A Tale for the Ages, which is a fantastic white card that helps creatures with auras be stronger. Um,
Card seems terrible.
what I said fantastic in like I like it, not it's actually very
In
good.
like this is a fantasy world. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's a
Yes.
fantastical card.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, and that brings a tear to their eye and just being like, holy shit, like we already have been affecting other people. And you know that Kellen's writing that in his fucking spank bank later, like being like, oh yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
hero.
Yeah. That was a fairly nice
It was.
thing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say
Um,
spank bank like it was really rude and disgusting, but you know
yeah.
that pumped him up a lot, being like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. It definitely inflates his hero ego.
trying to walk back that that statement. I feel a little bit bad about, but no, like it is very sweet, and they realize that they are actually helping people, and they are um affecting the world around them, which
That made me wonder if like the only reason for Peter's existence in this story is to like set up this scene, which I don't have an issue with really, but it's like
yeah.
I just feel like Peter doesn't make a lot of sense to me as a character.
Yeah, I don't know. I
But it could just be that's how kids are raised. She's 8. It's time to
yeah.
go through the trial of womanhood and see
I
if she
mean,
can do the thing that
how
countless
old?
others have perished.
How old is Peter? Is he 16? Was he 8 when she was born? And so then he raised her from that age, and then he's like, "Well, when you're 8, you got to do
Like, hey,
hard
when I
shit."
was 8, I did a thing that
So
dozens of
maybe
people died trying to do before
Peter
me.
is also a child. Like I'm thinking that he's like 30, but he's like he could easily be like 16, and
Yeah,
like
And even still, though, I think
That's
he would be
true.
like, sure,
He'd be
go.
smart enough. Anyway, Peter takes them out to Loch Laurent, and then he stops to camp, just being like, all right, this is where you're going to come back to when you don't go all the way. Because he knows they're not going to go and die in his mind. He's very,
Yeah,
like,
he's
he
maybe that's
knows.
it, right? Like he
Yeah.
thinks it's a lesson. Like give it a
Yeah.
go, and
Hmm.
hey, as soon as you can't feel your nose, you come right back, and
And then I'll go with you.
I'll be right
Or I'll do
here,
it. Yeah.
and yeah.
It's more, yeah, I think that's what it is. He doesn't really think that they're actually going to succeed, but he also doesn't think they're going to go so far that they die. Um, so he leaves them alone. So Kellen and Ruby are now walking towards this castle, and it starts to get really, really cold. It's already been cold as they've been walking, but now the wind's starting to pick up, and it's snowing and different things like that. And Kellen starts to think about people. Can their bodies actually freeze? Like, can they physically freeze, or is that just a thing that water does and beer does? I just love
I
that he
know. I
throw that
was
in.
like, isn't this kid 8? How
Well,
old is this guy?
well, anytime they reference beer, I want to mention it on the show. But also, um, yes, like, what, do you drink beer, kid? Like,
Yeah. It's just like classic beer freezing. That's a problem that I encounter all the
constantly.
time.
My kegs are always frozen. I gotta put my
Only
keg.
it was a higher alcohol content, it wouldn't freeze.
I gotta take a bunch of sheep and push them together to make sure my kegs stay like unfrozen. I don't know. Anyway, it starts to get colder and colder, and Kellen is yelling at the wind and snow,
Helen is yelling.
and then the wind and the snow start to yell back at him. But it turns out it's Hilda's voice who's telling them to turn back, and that she has no problem killing children.
Yeah.
Like, she will kill anybody, and regardless of age. So if you keep moving, I will just make it harder and colder for you. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
All right. So Kellen, of course, refuses because he thinks he can win everything. And
Yeah. And there's like some dorky dialogue like you've never encountered a real hero before.
yeah,
Hilda's like, yep, encountered plenty of them, they're all dead.
do you see them? They're by your feet.
Yeah.
And as he refuses, an ice spear comes down and basically lands right in front of his feet. And he looks up to see a frost knight, which is essentially our ice rot sentries from the set. And they're attacking him. So another spear forms in this ice knight's arm, and he pushes it into Kellen, and it pins him to the ground, but it just has his coat. Now, something important that I forgot to mention before is that Kellen's wool coat is made from the same wool from Oranshire, from the sheep.
Yes.
And this is the best and strongest wool out there. It's the best on the market.
Mm-hmm. So basically what happens is he's trying to like pull free and just like rip the edge of his cloak away, because it just has the edge of his cloak like pinned down, but the wool is too good. He literally cannot rip it free. Also, he's a child. He's probably not very strong.
That's true.
So, but mostly it's good fucking wool.
Yeah.
And Kellen like objects when he first got it, but then he's like, all right, I guess I have to be warned. He's like, oh man, Oranshire wool.
right. But he's like, oh, I don't want to wear a coat like a fucking kid.
Classic kid.
Yeah. Coats are for dorks.
Yeah. But anyways, and Ruby's just like, just take the fucking thing off. And so they're having this whole conversation essentially. It's like, oh shit, it's too strong, I can't rip it. And Ruby's like, just take it off. And he's like, my fingers are too cold. So he can't work the clasp.
Right. He's also realizing that if he takes off his coat, what is he going to do? Just like freeze to death immediately?
Yeah, just die. Like,
yeah.
So he basically like calls out to his father. He's like, Dad, help me. And then he whips out his hilts, or one of his hilts, I guess, that has nothing attached to it, except now it does have something attached to it. It is a lightsaber now.
Hell yeah. So we get story spotlight number 10, Kellen's Light Blades.
Yeah.
So he
And he
cuts
fucks
off.
these
Yeah, he fucks him up.
giants up. Yeah.
So he cuts off this like Ice Knight's arm, and then he gets up, and then Ruby was taken by the other one and is being held up in the air, and he cuts off that knight's arm and then catches Ruby in his arms. So he's doing some of that Fey shit, just
Yeah.
slicing and dicing, I guess.
Yeah. Now there was a thing where I think these for lack of a better term, these what are they called? Ice rot sentries. I'm just gonna call them frost giants. They run away in pain. Now, I thought they were like automatons, essentially, like ice, like coalesced out of ice into human-like forms or humanoid forms,
controlled by Hilda.
Right. But why would they wouldn't run away in pain unless they were actually living and could feel pain. So I thought that was very strange. And that's why I keep calling them frost giants, because I'm like, were they frost giants? But I thought still, like, when I went back and read it, I'm like, no, these seem to be like essentially moving ice sculptures.
Yeah, that's basically
why would they stop and run away because you cut off their arm? They would just keep fighting you.
Well, because the first one uses his spear and it shatters, and he makes a new spear in his hand and it comes down. I can't tell if it's just because Hilda. This is the first moment we see that Hilda has a heart. Where she
so maybe Kellen's interpreting it as them running away in pain.
And really it's Hilda's hoping that they'll just turn away, and that's why she's trying to scare them. But anyway, Ruby's like, holy shit, that was sweet. And Kellen's like, yeah. And then we have story spotlight number 11, Kindled Heroism, which is just going around as like a trash common in draft that nobody likes. But almost immediately after this,
it's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. But immediately after this, Kellen and Ruby are back to back facing the world. But all of a sudden, Kellen gets really tired and his sword gets really heavy. Even though it's made of light, it feels like it's made of iron, and he can't hold it up anymore. And then he just falls asleep, and Ruby catches him this time.
Yeah.
Just kind of out of nowhere.
First, they try to make you think like maybe this is the curse, right? But they sort of make it explicit that it's not the curse. I think it's just supposed to be like children just fall asleep. I don't know. He was just tired. Like, just fell asleep.
That's so much of the dad in you. I think that like
has to be
that like this kid got tuckered out.
Yeah. That's what happened.
I mean, like that is possible for sure. So anyway,
unless he's a teenager, then
that's true.
I don't know.
I have
teenagers
no idea.
Sleep a lot too, I guess.
That's true. They just anyway. So he falls asleep, and Ruby it's just Ruby against Hilda, and she is carrying Kellen. And she keeps trudging through the snow, and she keeps walking towards Hilda, being like, you know what, bitch, I'm going to get you. And I don't care what's happening. This is a good point, is that there are no Frost Knights at this moment. There are no more. We just dealt with the two, and now we're just walking through a storm or blizzard towards Hilda, and that's the only enemy is the storm. We don't have swords anymore.
But she's going across the bridge. And the bridge was when Imodane had to turn back. So they've gone past where Imodane could. So this is what Peter was like warning them. Like the bridge, that's the real trouble.
And this is
before this, they were just getting to the bridge. And they're like, oh shit, now we're at the part Peter said was hard. And Kellen conveniently falls asleep.
Yeah. It doesn't even pass
the hard
out.
Part.
Yeah.
Wake me up when we're there.
Yeah.
It's like the worst road trip friend of all time.
Oh god, yeah. Anyway, so Ruby keeps going, and it's going to the point where she's like picking up her feet to get over the snow, and then the snow gets so deep that she can't do that anymore, so she just trudges through it and smushes her feet through, and eventually she just realizes, like, you know what, I could just I can crawl. I can still move. I can
Yeah.
crawl. And Hilda's like, you can turn back at any second. Like, you can't keep going. You're going to die. And she's like, I can put Kellen on my back. I'm just going to crawl on the ground through the
Mhm.
snow. And she's literally just doing that, like underneath the actual snow piles. And it's really insane. And it's basically the whole time Hilda is saying, like, uh, she's not really saying fuck you little kids, but that's what I interpreted it as.
Yeah.
And Ruby's just doing the classic little kid nice thing, which is like pulling at her heartstrings. She's like, you know what? I think you need more friends. I think you're really
Yeah.
lonely out here and you don't have any friends. And that's the only reason that you're cranky right now. You need a nap, you need a snack, and you need a hug. That's what you
Yeah.
need. Um, and you know what?
Usually true.
Yeah,
Usually true.
Hilda eventually cracks and she's like, you know what? You're right. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I need.
This part was a bit ridiculous to me.
This is the
Like,
part I thought you were talking about the most.
it is the part I was talking
Okay.
about. She just like gives up. She's just like, you know
Mhm.
what? You've convinced me. My life is
Yeah.
sad and lonely. Even though like her whole thing is being lonely. Like her whole thing
Yeah.
is trying to be alone. She's just been alone forever. That's why she made this like ice castle.
hmm I
Ruby's
mean,
just like, you know what? I think you're lonely. She's
mhm.
like, oh my god, I see the
I
error of my
am.
ways.
I am lonely. Though to be fair, this is like Elsa, and the thing Elsa needed the most was her sister. So, you know, it's straight out of the movie. Um, anyway, it does like immediately Hilda flips a switch and is now good witch, and we love her. And she is like, you know what? Give me your friend. I can save him. And we go to story spotlight number 12, which is break the spell, which is well, in the card it looks like she's saving him from something else, which in fact she's just saving him from herself. So I don't actually,
Right.
my
Yeah.
emotions for this card have changed drastically after reading this story.
Yeah. She's kissing him on the forehead and
Yeah,
basically warming him up, which he was about to die because
this
she
is
almost
because of you.
killed him. Yeah.
Yeah. um
And even said, I have no problem killing children. So
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we know that was a threat.
Once someone says that, you kind of like they move a few ranks down and like you're I don't know about you, but me personally, when someone
Yeah,
says
yeah.
they have no problem killing children, I usually think of them.
But
They're a
Hilda
little lower
doesn't,
on my tier
she's
list.
she's not, that's not true though, because she actually does have a problem killing children. Because imagine if me or you were the
So
night
she's a liar too. Oh God.
yeah, yeah, I mean, like, if a regular knight or Imodane was saying the same things, I don't think they would have gotten to Hilda. But because a child is doing it and saying those things to her, then she can be vulnerable. I doubt
Yeah,
that
which
if
I
an
think is
adult.
most of the story is like
Mhm,
they get through it because they're children, not
mhm.
despite being children.
A classic child's story and tale.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
good fairy tale
mhm.
kind of thing.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, Hilda saves them both, and Ruby now drifts off to sleep. And they wake up, and this is specific in the wording. The youths wake up in comfy, warm beds in Hilda's castle, which apparently Hilda's castle is heated. Who knew? I
Well,
thought it
it
was
is
made
now. I don't
completely out of ice, but whatever. Um, I
Hey, have
forgot.
you ever been to like one of those ice hotels, man? Apparently, you can stay in them quite comfortably.
Ah, interesting. I mean, have you been in one of those?
I have not, but I've been trying to convince my partner to go that we should
Really?
stay in one.
Wow.
I think they're wildly expensive. So
They sound horribly expensive, but super cool.
right,
Um, get it? But also,
you
I'm
just
sure.
like put your beer in the corner or something.
Oh,
It's just
amazing! They should have like a curling rink and everything. It'd be perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh well, it's in Quebec. I'm sure they do.
ooh, yeah. Grayson will want to go at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Be 2v1 at that point.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. Where were we? So they wake up in their beds and they're so happy that they're alive. Kellen's like, wait, what the fuck happened? And Ruby's like, no, Hildy or Hilda is good now. And Kellen's like, I don't really think that that's true. And she's like, actually, I am, as she's standing in the corner or whatever. And then basically question her about if she poses a threat and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Well, I mean, you did sleep in my castle, and I could have killed you at any moment. So like, I think you're fine." um,
Yeah. Doesn't she have like some food or something? And Kellen just has no issue eating it all. And
yeah,
then
which is just
Ruby's actually suspicious. It's like,
yeah, one of those things. I can't exactly remember those specific things, but I do know that she reveals that Lord Talion was actually the
this is
fourth
important.
member of the group that made the wicked slumber curse. So
Yeah.
basically, witches, as we know, are not as powerful when they're separated, but when they're together, they're much more powerful. Lord Talion has told us that only three of them needed to be together to make this curse. However, through our story, we did find out there was a fourth witch that was murdered years ago because they had Will and Rowan Kenrith, the other sister. Now, these witches were called upon by Lord Talion, who had an idea to stop the Phyrexians, which is to put everyone to sleep. And they're like, yeah, Ariet's like, we could totally do that. We just need more magic. And Lord Talion's like, well, I could be the fourth one if you need, because I also got
Yeah.
some magic. And they're like, sick.
I'll be the bench witch.
And so this is brand new information for Kellen, and he is fucking
He's
pissed.
upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because not only did Lord Talion, it was his plan to do this, but it was so much of his plan that he had to pay the witches to let him do it. So he is the one who gave them the boons, which are Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Hilda's Crown of Winter, and Ariet's Tempting Apple. So those are the boons that they were given as payment for doing this thing for him, which is a pretty shady and shitty. Being like, hey, not only should you go kill that witch, bring me back one of her fucking things.
Yeah, give me the,
The
let's
thing
just
back.
say whatever is most striking about what they have. Whatever seems most boon-like.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like a cauldron or a crown or an apple,
Something like that. Yeah.
He's pretty shitty. So it is, Kellen is shooketh, and he immediately runs away. Ruby chases after him, and Hilda creates a portal to help them leave to go immediately to the Fey Court so they can confront Lord Talion, because fuck that piece of the SOB. So they do. Before they leave, Hilda does give Kellen the crown just to be like, hey, take this thing. I used the rest of the magic to make the portal. I don't know. They have magic besides the boons, right? Like, it's not like...
Yeah, they're still witches. Like, they're magical.
Yeah. That's what I thought. It just, for whatever reason, it seemed like as Hilda gave him the crown, that was the last bit of magic she has left, which was... I was confused.
I think without the crown, she can't turn the whole castle and all its surroundings into an icy thing.
Right,
she could make her own little sort of ice cavern or
gotcha.
like her little ice hut.
Like an ice chest.
Yeah, but it was the crown that was letting her turn like the whole land
Gotcha.
into a frozen wasteland.
Mm-hmm. So she can keep her beer cold, but she can't keep everyone's beer cold anymore.
Yeah, she's not Coors Light.
Bummer. Well, I mean, like, that's actually pretty good. Coors Light probably sucks. No, it definitely sucks. It got left.
I mean, we've confirmed on this show, right?
Yeah, that's
why we're here. It's why it's not here.
Yeah, because Coors Light and Coors is horrible.
Well, spoiler alert, I guess. Coors Light is not in this show.
It's so bad.
This episode.
Ugh.
Yeah, so Kellen, he's all mad. He runs up to Talion. He throws the crown on the ground. He's like, "You fucking liar!" Or sorry, you
dirty rat.
You raccoon, you. And Lord Talion's like, "What you talk about?" And Kellen's like, "You lied to me." And Lord Talion's like, "I literally cannot lie. If I lied, my skin would bubble and I would die."
I believe he says my blood would curdle and turn to milk or something.
Milky blood. And Kellen's like, "Well, we know that you helped the witches." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that. Oof. Yeah. What are you gonna do?" And But then we find out why Kellen's really so upset, which I think is interesting because he says it's just like a one-liner, but he says, like, you told me you knew about my dad. I think it's starting to dawn on him that he might have, like,
Lied.
the possibility that Italian doesn't actually know anything about his dad is finally becoming possible to him. Like, it's
Hmm.
becoming a real thing. And he's like, well, I'm a family guy. So if it's not about my dad, then
Then like I'm out, bro.
yeah,
Yeah, that is one of those things that like definitely as a child, I guess as anyone, but like if someone is a liar or labeled a liar, that means like I can't trust anything you say. Which as an
yeah,
adult, you realize like people have little lies all the time, and like that's very
right.
normal and just like happens in life. And it's like
Or even just like different perceptions of what's
yes,
happening.
exactly. It's not even like I'm not lying about this, but like that's what happened to me. And it's
Right.
anyway, I speak my truth or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Although Italian's definitely
well, yeah.
intentionally being deceitful.
Well, he can
As
also,
Barry, and they're known for that.
yeah,
God
fucking
damn it, Kellen.
idiot. Also, there is no way that when he lies, his blood turns to
No, that's
spoiled milk.
obviously also a lie because
Yeah,
he
duh.
definitely lied about the three witches
Like no
being the
shit.
ones. I mean, maybe he said it in a way that's like the three witches were involved in.
I didn't go back to check, but I was like, he definitely
He
like,
definitely said it was caused by witches three,
yeah. Um,
because I remember that line being like, "Oh, we're trying to be
uh,
all poetic here,
yeah, and we were anyway.
fairy tale
Um,
here."
so Kellen's super pissed, um, and but he's like, you know what, whatever. Italian's like, okay, so you got, a couple options. Basically, you could do what I want, which is go to Castle Ardenvale and kill the last witch Ariette, and then the wicked slumber will be over, and then I'll tell you about your dad. Or you could just go home and not do that and never know anything. So, what do you want to do? It's up to you. I don't really care, honestly. Like this doesn't fucking matter to me. You're the one who came to
Classic
me.
negotiating with a child.
Yeah. And so of course he says, "Fine, I'll
Choice
go
is yours, but here's one awful option and
and
one
one
good
good
option.
option." Yeah. And so he decides he's going to go to Ardenvale and defeat Ariette, break the curse, learn about his father, and I don't know. Anyway, Kellen leaves, and then he just fucking bawls his eyes out because that sucks. What a rough. He that's bad. That sucks. But what are you gonna do?
Welcome to the world, kiddo.
Yeah. Should have talked to your mom about leaving first.
Yeah, maybe just
uh,
ask her about your dad.
yeah.
She
Anyway,
probably knows.
that is end of episode 4. We have one left, our conclusion. But Jeff, I think we have a beer break to go on. Do you have anything to say about episode 3 and 4 before we head out?
Yes, 3 felt pointless, could have been avoided. 4, um, 4 was just upsetting. 4, uh, again, it's just the pace is so breakneck that it's
Mm-hmm.
like ice cold witch with no heart. Just it felt too
Has a
quick that
heart.
she just suddenly turned everything
She
around.
warmed up. Yeah.
Um, and again, I don't think that's even the author's fault. I think that's just this is trying to cram way too much into
Yeah.
not enough words.
It is our normal complaint.
Yes.
However, I don't want to read a whole novel of this. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're gonna make it about one witch and cut
Mm-hmm.
the other two witches and just have 5 stories about that. That could be readable.
That's true. While there's a bunch of other characters that you have side stories for, I don't really know. Anyway,
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I think, something about
yes.
Locke. This story,
Loch Laurent.
they see yellow eyes underneath the ice in the
Oh,
lock. It's just
right.
sort of mentioned off to
Mm-hmm.
the side. I'm pretty sure that's like the Loch Ness monster, or whatever from the first one. The
Oh, the serpent.
Yeah, Lochmere Serpents.
Oh, but it's
I
stuck under
think
the ice.
it's stuck under the ice.
Oh, that's
It's just
cool.
another reference to a throne card that I thought was nice.
That's awesome because I
So I'm
loved
pretty
that
sure that
card.
card had yellow eyes. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was like my pre fairies or pre rogues deck when I was playing.
oh yeah,
Um,
I played a surprising amount of that card actually. I
mhm,
played like just Demir Control. That was the finisher because it was cheap. And,
yeah, and
back when I cared about stuff like that.
I was playing it because it was uh I think it was just because it was blue black. Had it? Did it have flash?
Yeah,
Yeah, and so it was like I was playing
it's
blue
a
black
it's a really good card. It's
flash
just
creatures.
Throne of Eldraine mediocre. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah. So,
strong card overall.
all right, Jeff. Let's go on a beer break, grab our next beer, and get into the conclusion of our story.
Let's do it.
Cheers.
Okay, up next, we have a downright recent beer from 1820. This is called Alexander Keats. So I was going to say this is pretty common in Canada, but you and I were talking before, like it's even starting to die down a bit here. It's harder to find than it used to be. But
Hmm.
if you're Canadian, you've probably heard of Alexander Keats. I don't know how widespread it is outside of this country, but it's from Nova Scotia, which is East Coast Canada. Um, and the most interesting thing about it, I would say, is that it's grandfathered in to being called an India Pale Ale. So on the can, and you can see as Zach will hold it up for you, it says India Pale Ale. It is definitely not an IPA. It's just like an
It's a
ale.
it's a blonde ale. Yeah.
Yeah. I was almost going to say lager, but then I was like, well, they can't possibly call it an IPA if it's a lager. But like, since it's so old, they just called it an IPA. Maybe it even was like more IPA like than what was around at the time. And now we actually have like a definition of what an IPA is, and this doesn't meet that. But
Mm-mm.
because they've been around so long by North American standards, um, they're just like it was ruled, I guess, that it would be too destructive to their brand to force them to change it. So they are grandfathered in that sense that they're allowed to call it an IPA, even though it doesn't actually meet the
Tastes.
definition of an IPA at all.
It's true.
Uh,
So
but it's a pretty good beer because it made its way all the way to this final round. So
it is um, beating other beers that I always thought were similarly like it. So check out all of our Drunken Vorthoses if you're interested to see what we think about those, as well as if you're interested in our actual thoughts and rankings of beer that we've had on the entire show. If you become a patron of the podcast, you get the entire beer sheet of every single ranking we've ever done for every single episode. So,
a lot of
and
beers.
it's a lot of beers because some episodes we drink four, a lot of episodes we drink two, though most recently we're drinking one. As we're getting to be older men, ugh, it's,
Cool for this shit.
it's too old to be drinking four beers a night um,
Yeah.
on air, not just in general. Anyway, Jeff, let's wrap up this story. Let's get to the end. This is episode number 5, Broken Oaths. So our child heroes, which is what they were called at the very beginning of this story, or
I think
sorry,
they've
this
earned
actual,
that.
they're definitely child heroes. I was mainly talking about child, but heroes for sure. Um,
Mm.
they are now on top of their new pony steeds as they head to Ardenvale to confront Ariette. And Ruby was given an ice sword by Hilda, which is as big as she is because that's what she asked for.
Yeah. She
Hilda's
said, I
like,
want a sword that's as big as I
yeah,
am. And
there you
Hilda's like,
go.
all right.
Okay, here you go.
Can I just say one thing I would have loved? A random, like, and I've been talking about stop wasting words on tangent scenes, but here's a tangent scene I would have loved. If at uh the previous episode, right at the end, we get like a paragraph from Peter's perspective as he's like up at night at camp and he just sees all the ice just like
Oh,
vanish.
that would have been great.
And he's like looking at the castle from his camp that's not that far out. And
Yeah,
he's just like, wow, she did it, kind of thing.
yeah.
Like, that would have been cool.
That would have been really cool. Also, because if he's sitting there by the fire being like, where are they? And starts to get
Yeah,
worried,
right.
like they should have been back by now. I was supposed to go after them.
Right.
Or
And their
like, do
plan
I
was that they
leave or
would
not?
turn around
Hmm.
pretty fucking quick.
Yeah, and they didn't, because he's just at the camp. Yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been great. See, and I think that our author is like perfect at those things too.
Right.
Like
They would have
that's
written it
that's the
really
world that
well.
they live in, and so I
Mhm.
think that if they were able to, as we go on with these stories, maybe if they have the reins to bring us back to some of those little characters, how nicely we could, like the achievement of watching the castle melt is from far away is so much more interesting and exciting than a lot of the other little nitty gritty things that
Right.
don't really
Like
matter.
Pixie.
Yeah, because there's some really poetic stuff in the actual story. Every once in a while, you get a little glimpse, even like Rowan's dream. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. We're on to other things.
I'm so good at derailing
Yeah, I know. God damn it, I know. He do it right at the beginning too, for whatever reason.
you.
Anyway, so they get to the castle and the doors are already busted open because Rowan did that earlier. Um, and they see all the slumbering people everywhere, and also all the guards are just kind of so the castle doors are the actual gate is busted, but they can't get through because there's all these slumber guards guarding it, and they don't want to hurt them because they're nice, good child heroes. So
Apparently, they are aware that those guards will attack them. Is previously their only experience with the slumber was people
mhm.
just sleeping.
Also, they specifically don't want to touch them either. So like if there's just a bunch of them, they wouldn't really be
Right.
able to get through
But
as well.
he said something about having to hurt them or them attacking him. And I was like, how do you know they're going to attack? Did
That's
maybe
true.
Hilda told them?
Yeah,
But
I don't know. Anyway, we do get our second frogification potion, um, which
it did matter.
whoa, who would have
What?
thought? So Ruby decides that she's going to drink it this time because last time it looked like so much fun.
It
Um,
also is her potion, after all.
that's
There's
true.
one for
It's
each of them.
she deserves to have it. They wrote her name on it, as kids would do to make sure things are fair. And so she has it, and she's like, "But this time you gotta ride me," which is not a kid thing to say. Anyway, so Kellen hops on top of her back. They tie up their ponies or whatever, and they jump over the wall. And as they jump over the wall, there are no sleeping, slumbering knights on the other side to speak of, and they're totally chill. So they're like, "Oh, sick! This is a lot easier than I thought." And then the frogification potion stops immediately. As soon as they land, you get one hop. That's what
Like,
you get. I guess like
yeah,
the potion over time like degrades. So within a couple days, like it's not as good as it was when they first got it
I'd buy
because
that. There you go.
it
Maybe
stopped.
they like popped the cork and then didn't
Oh,
refrigerate it.
and then put it back on. So like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's they thought they were gonna use it, and then they're like, oh no, and so it didn't have very much carbonation left.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
that's
They left too
something.
much of it out.
Yeah, probably. I think that's what it is. The potency went down. Anyway, um, they walk up to the hall, and who do they find in the middle of the castle but their Princess Rowan? Holy
Yeah.
shit! It's like a Kardashian.
They're being all sneaky, like around every corner. Okay, shuffle the wall, and then they poke their head around. Boom, there it is,
Mhm.
Rowan. And so what do? They sprint into the room, yelling, "Hey, Rowan! Hey, Rowan!"
Oh, you're here because they immediately think that
Because
Rowan's
Rowan's a good guy.
yeah. They think that Rowan's doing this the same thing that they're doing at the castle is defeating the witch because that's what heroes do. Um, Now, obviously, Rowan is not doing that. And Rowan, in fact, is like standing by a book that says, like, attempt number 23, try it this way this time. I can't remember what it
I
says.
still suck
Yeah, basically. And Rowan
at
is
putting people to sleep.
like,
Signed, Rowan.
sparks are kind of like coming around her hands, and she sees these kids, and she's like, "You better get the fuck out of here, like right now." And they're like, "No, no, we can help you. We're gonna help you with the witch and stuff." They're like, "No, you need to leave. Like,
And
go."
Ruby's even like,
Oh,
we're heroes.
yeah. And Rowan's like, "That's cool or whatever, but like, you have to get out of here. Like, you shouldn't be here right now." And they're like, obviously not going to leave. And so then Rowan just keeps going with her magic, and everything glows white. And they wake up in a cell downstairs in the dungeon. In the dungeon.
Although not a very good cell,
It's terrible.
or they like left it open or
Or like
something.
it's not really a cell at all. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Kellen
I
wakes up.
pictured them in a cell, but they get out so easily, and she just talks about walking over and grabbing her sword. So maybe it was just like in the corner of the room.
Yeah, I don't really know. The
Castle
Kellen,
Ardenvale would definitely have dungeons, like proper dungeons.
but are they destroyed though? Is it like
Yeah,
ruined?
maybe it's like all blown to shit.
Yeah, maybe it's like Pirates of the Caribbean style, where like there is a cell, but there is a giant hole in the wall as well. Um,
Mm,
so like I don't know.
that's super effective.
Yeah. So anyway, Ruby wakes up Kellen with like a bucket of like prison water, and which is Kellen's always falling asleep now. Anyway,
I liked that scene because it was like he hears her say, "Kellen, are you awake? If you're not awake, I'm gonna have to pour this water on you." And he says, "Like what?" Then he just gets
she
smoked in the
does
face
it.
with water.
She just does it anyway. Oh, Ruby, that's great.
I'm like, kids would definitely do that.
Oh, for sure. Um, but anyway, so they wake up. They're like, "Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna go get my sword, and we're gonna go upstairs because we Rowan put us down here for our safety to make sure that we're okay." Um, but let's go find the witch because I think I heard the witch is calling her name.
But Rowan tried to use her, like practice her put to sleep magic on Kellen.
Hmm.
That's what Ruby was saying. Like the whole time she was there saying, "Oh, this is for his best. He's gonna thank me
Hmm.
for it." Blah blah blah. So that's why Kellen was slightly drowsy, but I guess Rowan really sucks at it. So
Why
she
didn't she
kind of
also
pulled
do
that.
it to Ruby too? I thought that they were both supposed to be. I thought after this happened, I thought that they were still in the dream. I thought that Rowan was actually successful and they were actually dreaming at this moment. Um,
Actually also thought that must be the case,
mhm.
but no, it's just reality that Rowan was only trying on Kellen and sucks enough that she didn't really succeed.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, because the thing is, we cut to Rowan who's upstairs with Ariette, and Rowan believes that she is keeping the kids downstairs asleep, dreaming. Um,
But
and
Ruby was like, I don't know, Rowan was trying to put you to sleep. Then some knights came. She ran upstairs. I walked over there and grabbed my sword, and that's where we're at.
yeah. So
She
anyway,
just forgot about Ruby or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Ruby doesn't count, I guess. Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, so Ariette is commanding all of the different knights who are asleep, and Rowan is just trying to keep the kids asleep because, well, Ariette is teaching her the like sleeping magic, but also at the same time, this is part of Rowan's feeling like very inadequate, being like, wow, she can do so much stuff, and I can barely do anything, and in fact, not do it at all. Um, just making her feel sad, but also kind of like Ariette is her mom, and she's spending time with mom, and mom's teaching me how to do stuff, which is sweet, I guess. So Will busts through the
We all have
gates.
that evil aunt, right?
Yeah, that's true. Um, Will busts through the gates, which are already blown open, I guess. But he has his phalanx with him, and he's here to kill the witch because I think that everyone wants to kill the witch because they assume that it'll stop the slumber.
Apparently,
Um,
it's not that big a secret that Ariette is
Evil.
the cause of the slumber.
Also, to be fair, like knights and witches don't tend to get along. So, um, also, Imodane is with Will. So after she was fucked up by Agatha and the Wolf Knight, she like heals up and then goes and is friends with Will now. And Will's like, "Hey, I wanted to work together with you the whole time." And Imodane's like, "Oh, that's nice. Wow, what a good
Imodane's like,
ruler."
well, all it took was your sister exploding a mountain, which kind of scared me, so I ran away, and then I
Yeah,
ran right into a witch who tried to eat me, and then some kids saved me. But
yeah,
after that, I think you're right.
yeah. You know what? You're so much better than everyone else I've ever met.
Yeah, I have met some real shit people. I thought you were bad. I thought you were bad,
Yeah.
Void King.
No.
But you know what?
It's some real fucking shitty people, you know. Well, you got to meet some cannibals, and then you just want
Yeah,
to
whole
talk.
perspective change.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation. Do you want me to go to therapy? I'll go to therapy. That's fine. I just don't
Yeah.
eat me. Yeah, that's basically what this conversation was.
Don't put a friggin' wolf mask on, like beat the shit out of me,
Yeah.
and then try to
And then
throw me
pretend like it wasn't your fault afterwards.
in.
Oh, it was somebody else. No, they
This
tricked
gamer
me
game
into
must
it.
be fucked up.
Yeah. That's like some real Mean Girls, like
Yeah.
high school, like psychological warfare. But um,
That's got to be it. She just realized there are lesser evils than
yeah,
Will Kenra.
absolutely. Who's just a fucking wet leg, I
Yeah,
guess, of a guy.
he's just kind of annoying. He's
Yeah,
kind of the worst, but like he's well intentioned enough.
yeah. He's like you would copy his homework, but
He's
you know,
just a wet blanket, man.
yeah. Um. Anyway, uh, he Will comes in and does his normal trying to reason with Rowan, but of course Rowan fucking hates that shit because
It just pisses her off more, which is like, you must know this. You've
like
been your
this is
whole life together being twins. You know that when you talk that way to her, it just pisses her off more, and she
it's
does
true.
the exact opposite of what you're saying.
But it's also the same thing of like you know how you have those friends or even like with your siblings you're like I said this to you a million times but I swear if you just heard me say it, like if you heard what I was saying you would do
Like, you're
it.
not understanding.
Yeah. and there's a mental block between like obviously you need to use a new tactic, but it's like no, but if you just got it, like you just have to hear me fully.
Right.
But obviously from the outside we can be like that's stupid, don't do that anymore. I know those conversations where like you have that fight and you're just like but if you did the thing just, and you're trying not to say it the same way but that's the best way to say it and then you say it again and it just infuriates them. Oh god, anyway, flashbacks. So ugh.
I'd like to think if it was life or death, I might try something different. But
Yeah, well, you're not Will and Rowan. They're how they are, but anyway, um, so she knows this is one of those things where like she's like Will. So Rowan wants to use physical violence and power to rule the realm, and Will wants to use diplomacy and words. So Rowan decides, hey, I will force you to use your sword on me if I start attacking you, which is exactly what happens. She's like, if
yeah,
I try to kill you, I know you will block, and then we can start fighting, which is she's much better at. And so she would rather put herself in that position, which is pretty smart. From the outside, it looks stupid, but her thought process, I think, comes together. I think our author did a good job of making that, putting those pieces together for us was nice. Um,
yeah. Um, so what we have basically, Rowan is hacking at will. There's a bunch of sleeping knights fighting a bunch of awake knights. All of the sleeping knights are controlled by Ariette.
mhm,
So she's able to control them all at the same time, which Rowan is even like, wow, she can control them all, and I can't even do one.
mhm.
Uh, and then Ashiok is away on business.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
kind of check in there. Ashiok's not here. They had to go away on an important business call.
Yeah. So as this is happening, um, at a certain point, uh, the kids escape from downstairs, which we know. And Rowan looks back and sees that the kids have come up and they're attacking Ariette. Now, Rowan is worried that Ariette will not be able to both physically fend off the children as well as keep all the slumbering knights fighting. So she's like, oh shit, things are not going my way. And
Plus, she's
she
even saying like tactically, Wake Knights have
are
training, and Ariette doesn't have any real like combat training, so those
Right.
sleepy knights are not like
Very
doing the
good.
right thing.
Yeah.
Basically,
It's like they're moving, but like it's like if Rowan could control them, they would be much better.
yeah,
Um, Now, at that moment, Will and Rowan pause for a second as Will sees that Rowan is looking back and wants to run over and save Ariette. And Will's really like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to go try to save a witch right now? Witches get snitches or stitches."
witches
Eh,
get snitches.
yeah.
Yeah, they win
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
Quidditch
Fucking.
match.
Yeah. That's true, I guess. Um, and he's so insulted by this, the fact that she would want to go and try to save a witch, that he says that I don't even know you anymore. Like, you're nothing to me. Like, what has happened? Which, of course, cuts Rowan really deep. Um, and through this, I think she was trying to explain who Ariat was and their whole history, being like, dude, our whole life is a fucking lie. Our dad fucked a witch, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like, come on.
That's our
Um,
aunt, man.
yeah, like she is our family, and as Rowan knows much better than Kellen that about family and who's important, and who's a family person and who's not. Rowan feels much more like a family person than Kellen does, um, but and maybe we can bring that up later. It doesn't really matter right now, but all right. So now Rowan gets really pissed off and she starts attacking Will with her sparks and her, I guess, whatever she has, her lightning, which Will is able to deflect with all of his ice. And then, sorry, all the burps are coming up right now.
Yeah, that time.
As they do with the third beer. Um, Imodane intervenes. And as now Rowan is fighting against Will and Imodane, we get Ashiok coming right into the
Ashiok's now
middle.
back from their business trip
Mm-hmm.
and is able to help out again. So cue the like, I don't know, secondary characters popping back in. Basically what happens is, so my understanding, yeah,
Okay, let's do
it's all
this. Let's
chaos,
okay, here we go.
right?
It is chaos.
And chaos is difficult to write. My understanding is that Rowan knows that Ashiok is a much better dream controller than Ariette.
Mm-hmm.
So she gains more confidence in the dream people. Plus, she knows that if Ashiok can control the dream people, the sleeping knights, then Ariette can focus on putting to sleep the knights that are not currently asleep, so the knights that are on the opposition. So their army will grow, essentially, by stealing the opponent's army, which if you ever played Magic, those spells are busted. Control Magic, like, really turns the tide. And she knows that. For some reason, she believes that the best thing for her to do is to really get in Imodane's face. And so she just basically like throws herself at Imodane.
So these are things that Rowan thinks during that moment. I believe that none of those things actually transpire.
Okay.
I just can't really tell. It feels like Ashiok shows up. Rowan feels like now the tide of war is going in her favor and she's feeling stronger. However, I can't really tell if actually anything happens. It just kind of feels like all those things are true. I don't, it doesn't really feel like anything else happened. She fights Imodane off for a little bit. Imodane starts shooting fire at the soldiers, which Rowan's like, don't you fucking know that those are sleeping soldiers? Like, they're actually good guys.
Hey, those are like your homies.
So what the fuck are you doing, bro? And so she shoots Imodane with some sparks at her feet, and then she starts fighting.
Meanwhile, she's been cracking non-sleeping shoulders, like face,
like it's whatever,
lightning bolting that.
Yeah, and so then Rowan is fighting Will at this moment, and then Kellen starts running away from Ariette towards Ashiok. Kellen has like his light like it's so that's what's also frustrating. So he has lightsabers, like light blades, right? That's he's Kellen Lightblade. But at this moment, his blade, one of his blades, is like a whip. It like
Okay,
can wrap around
this
stuff.
confused me as well. If you look at the picture of him on his
Hmm.
card, he has one like short sword
Hmm.
and one whip.
Whip.
And that's, I guess,
What it is.
it says light blades, but one of them's a blade and one of
One
them's
of his
like
whip.
the Gideon thing that they fucking love, like
This
the Sorrel or whatever.
Sorrel,
Except
yeah.
I don't think it has the multi
Yeah,
end.
it's not like a
I think it's
man.
supposed to be some sort of nod to Gideon.
Yes. That would make sense.
But yeah, he has one sword and one whip, basically.
So
Uh, but yeah,
Kellen,
they don't mention that at any point. They just talk about from Rowan's perspective. Kellen's like whipping somebody.
yeah,
It's like,
which is another
I
reason
thought it was a
like
sword.
I I think that's one thing that's good, like it's good that the story is from one perspective for the most part. It's basically like Kellen or Rowan, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
However, it does make certain things
And
complicated where
Ruby
like you
and
want to use a specific word or name of a thing and you can't because that character wouldn't know that. But I think for the sake of clarity, just letting them know certain things like that would be more, it would be easier
I think
for
it's the
us
author's
to.
intention that it's clear that the other hilt that did not activate before must be the
Mhm.
whip that Rowan is seeing or whatever, but it just wasn't that clear.
Yeah.
Like, because these are magical items that didn't activate right away, the question I had was, are these like do they morph into whatever he needs at the
At the
time?
time, yes.
Or is it one? He has two. They're
And they
each
just
one
do.
thing.
I don't know. I have no idea. We don't know. There's nothing that explains it to us. But at this moment, he has at least one whip. So he's running towards them. As Rowan's fighting Will, this is the thing that's important. Uh, Imodane down, Ariat busy, Ashiok behind Rowan. Things are happening. Will shoots an ice bolt at Rowan, which Rowan knows is coming and dodges it because she's like, fucking, you always do that shit to me. And like, this not gonna happen. Can't catch me. Of course, she taunts Will and says, "Oh, you missed me," blah 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 blah. And then Will's like, "Did I?" And then she turns around and looks behind her, and Ashiok is standing there with their legs wrapped around with a light whip, so they can't move, and in their chest is a piece of ice stabbing them to death. I guess
It just
so,
like frustrates them, so
disappear.
they planeswalk away. And
Yeah,
then Rowan's like, "Wow, they still have their spark," which is like, I kind of assumed you already knew that because you were kind of in league with Ashiok, and they went away on their business trip. But
and they came back,
okay,
but whatever.
they came back immediate, like right into the thick of battle. But okay,
Yeah. So Ashiok is gone. Rowan feels like an idiot, and Rowan looks back and sees that Ruby has her sword to Ariette's throat, saying that she will fucking slit her throat and kill her. But Ariette starts talking to Rowan in her mind, and because she can also do that, and just
yeah,
like says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll see you later. This little bitch kid doesn't have the balls to kill me. Like, I'm not gonna die right now." Though if that was Kellen, you did. Like Kellen doesn't give a fuck. Kellen kills you.
yeah. Kellen's not a thinker; he's
Yeah.
a doer.
And Ruby has just had a really nice
And
time.
Kellen wants to meet his dad, so
Yeah. And Ruby just had like, I don't know, tea with her sister, and it's like, you know what, I kind of like witches now. The last one I talked to was pretty good.
he's a good
I
witch.
didn't deal with the first one, so yeah, I'm okay with not killing you. That's basically how that all goes down.
Worst
And
thing the first one did is like mind control my brother and make him do her bidding. Like, almost killed
that's
me.
that's true. That's true. I forgot about that part. Um, anyway, so Rowan uh, is freaking out because she's cornered, and basically it's like, hey, you gotta fucking come with us, or we're gonna. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, we have you surrounded. We're gonna steal you. We're gonna steal the witch, and that's what's happening. So Rowan goes full crackle with power, explodes into lightning stuff, and shoots up into the sky, I guess, and disappears. Um,
And Will goes, Rowan.
yeah, like when it shoots up in the sky, like I'm assuming that she like is shooting lightning out of her fingertips and goes up through the ceiling and so high above the castle she can see where the purple lines for the sleeping stuff
Yeah,
comes from,
because
and
it's
they
described as like
all,
a spider web.
yeah, it's like a spider web that all comes back to the castle. Like Arya is doing all of it, and she's so high up she can see all of Eldraine going towards there, and then she is gone. um, it's very cryptic and it's very short, so we don't really know what happens. um, but Will is very worried and scared for wherever his sister is. um, yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
That's it.
that's
That's
basically
sad.
it. A little.
Kellen goes back
That's
to
right.
Oranshire.
We do have a little bit right before Kellen goes back. We cut to Will that congratulates the little kids on their good job, and
Oh,
just
yes.
the main thing is that he takes Ariette prisoner.
Mhm.
So he says, "Hey, Kellen and Ruby, you can come back to the castle anytime you want. You can come see me. We're like family now, or whatever." Another family reference. Um,
He even pissed me off in this instance though, because he said something like, "You're very heroic for kids your age."
mhm.
I was like, "Fuck off, Will." Like, they're very heroic. Full stop.
Period.
Like, yeah,
That's,
anyone would have done that.
to be fair. I love that we're saying that because like we've been talking about how stupid kids are the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
so,
like,
but it's true.
if I saw a kid do that, and like I somehow like he helped me win the fight against some huge enemy, I would be like, well, you're not as good as me,
Mhm.
obviously, because you're a kid, but
Well, I mean, Will is extremely entitled. He did not have to go through the trials to become king. So,
he's the worst.
yeah, he's not the worst, but
Oh
he
yeah.
sucks. All
Well,
right,
that's true. There are a lot. There are worse in this story.
it's true. I mean, his dad fucked a witch and then killed her. So, uh, anyway, Jeff, let's go back to what you were just saying. Cut to Oranshire. Kellen,
Yes.
give it to us.
All right. So Kellen comes home and his parents are like, "Thank fucking God," and sprint out to meet him and give him a big hug and shit. So this is where I'm like, did they know he was gone? Did they not know he was gone? Um, that scene is well written, and
Mhm.
it very much seems like they did not know what the fuck was going on.
Mhm.
Because the stepdad's like, "He's here," and then the mom comes sprinting out, and like, yeah, they have a big family hug. And then his mom had made him this dope sweater that
Mhm.
has like uh, basically like a it's like a tapestry almost, it sounds like. This sweater could be art for a saga kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it's a person overlooking some, you know, beautiful lake or whatever, uh, and it has real gold fibers going through it, and it's just like made of all these different wools. He can't believe his mother could have made it in the time that he was gone. And he says, you know, "Mom, I love it, but I can't wear it. It'll get destroyed." And she says, "Don't worry. It's enchanted." And so he has this. I think this is the first time we really learn that his mom, like, I think they mention it at the beginning, but this is like the proof that she magic. They
Mhm.
mention a couple of times, I think, that his mom apprenticed under a witch, essentially.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think we ever learn which.
I don't think so either, but I do know that
I mean, I have a
it's
guess. I think it was Rowan's mom, but
mhm,
yeah.
probably so. Like she's obviously not the worst of all the witches if she's apprenticing little other people. Um,
Yeah, but then Kellen's mom also like stopped and didn't become a witch because she was like, "Whoa,
that was pretty intense.
This person sucks.
Mhm. But anyway, it's really sweet, and we just had this wonderful moment. We also love that stepdad is sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, actually, I have to go. I was supposed
Oh
to.
yeah, there's someone else had they had some really good tea down the road.
Yes, I need to go get some of that. I'm sorry." And then he leaves. And Kellen could is old enough now, and as he comes back into the village, he feels older and stands taller. Like the bully, the Cotter boys don't really bug
Walks
him.
by the bullies.
He
Yeah.
can go by, and so he's sitting there. He's like, that was he can see the ploy of like he did that on purpose. And his mom's
And
like,
I liked how
yeah,
part of him walking by them was like he's still kind of scared. He's like
mm-hmm,
now that he knows he is half Fae, he'll
mm-hmm,
walk by them like proudly.
yeah.
Um,
It's not like this blemish.
right.
So he goes to his mom, and she's like, yes, your stepdad excused himself on purpose. You're very smart for realizing that that's what it was.
Yeah.
But it's because I wanted to sit down and I wanted to tell you about your father. Not the father that you may have heard from the Lord Talion or whoever, but just the person that I knew. And then Kellen gets to tell his mom that, and it's something that we didn't know. This is what we find out at this moment, is that he went back to Talion to tell him, hey, we got the witch, we stopped this thing. Well, it's never really clear if we destroyed the slumber or not. I actually don't super know, because Ariette is still alive. So, like, is everybody okay? We don't really know.
I have theories.
But Talion says, hey, do you want to know about your dad? And Kellen says, no, I don't. I want to hear it from my mom. I'm not interested in hearing it from you. And when he tells his mom that,
Good man.
she starts to cry. And it's really emotional. And it's such a very touching moment. And this whole
Yeah.
ending was such a surprise, I feel.
Oh, it was
Like,
awesome. This
yeah.
is where the author, like, this is one of the things we're saying. There's some things the author does really well.
Mm-hmm.
This is it.
Like, these are the things that I think that, yeah, our author really shines with. Um, these really human moments or fairy moments, I guess. But that was wonderful. And he just sits down and asks his mom, like, what happened? Like, how do you know my dad? And so she just explains. Well, Jeff, do you want to explain? Do you want to tell us the story?
Okay, so his dad is Oko, the thief of crowns.
What?
I know. Feel like, come on. There's
We
one very famous fairy
we
in
know
the
this.
Eldraine story.
It's Yuta
Yeah,
Takahashi.
yeah.
Your
It's you,
father.
And it wasn't like it was just a nice story, kind of
Mhm,
basically one you've sort of heard before, but she was apprenticing under a witch, so she needed some nightingale. She goes to a nightingale patch, and that's where Oko is. And she's kind of surprised that he's able to just be among those herbs without them like harming him in any way. And he says, "Hey, like, sit down, chat with me. I'll give you all the nightingale you want. That's the trade." She's like, "Oh, that seems a little too good to be true." And he's like, "Well, like, I think the same thing because I get to chat with a pretty woman all night or whatever,
mhm,
a classic like beginning
mhm,
love story kind of thing." Um, and basically, he explained to her he's not from Eldraine. Um, he's from a land where fairies are actually they rule.
mhm.
She conveniently can't remember the name of the plane that
Yes.
he's from. Yeah, that's
Is
a real
it?
bummer. It would have been really useful information.
I mean,
Uh,
I'm not going to get into it, but maybe,
yeah,
maybe
you
we're
don't want to
going there.
confirm anything, do you?
Are we coming back at some point to a plane?
uh,
I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, we'll save that for what next year? 2 years? 2
if
years?
3 years are from now, We'll see.
I don't know. They told us so much, so much. Um, but anyways, he's not from here. He finds it odd, like that fairies could possibly be challenged by humans, which I
Hmm.
thought was an interesting sort of reference that he throws in there. Um, but then basically they have like kind of a classic love story, except that he has to like show up in different forms. So he'll show up as a raven, or he'll show up as a maybe an elk,
Hmm.
and
Huh.
kind of signal to her, "Come meet me over here." Um, but basically, the relationship falls apart a bit when uh, the witch and other people, like the witch is mistreating her, and the other people are mistreating her for being a witch, and she's kind of like, "Hey, you know, let them do their thing."
Hmm.
And he's like, "I want to kill them all for treating you poorly," um, which is interesting. It's,
It's pretty intense, and he basically said he wanted to raise Oranshire to the ground and destroy
yeah,
everything. And she's like, "Well, I don't vibe with that. Please don't do that.
yeah,
Um,
no.
we can't see
And
each
he wants
other."
to like make her queen. So it made me wonder. I don't know the story of original Eldraine that well. I know you read it, but I
Mm-mm.
like, oh, you
I
didn't
didn't
read
read
it.
it.
Okay. Um,
I know about it
but
though.
I know he's trying to steal the crown, right? Like he's the thief
Hmm.
of crowns. So it makes you wonder, is he doing, he did that for her, I guess, is what we're sort of learning. He was trying
He,
to get that power, not necessarily for himself, not entirely not for himself, but
mhm,
also he wanted to make her queen.
possibly a lot of Throne of Eldraine is he turned Kenrith into an elk and hid the elk in the forest. So he stole the crown of the actual like king. Um,
Right. So
but
yeah, I wonder like if he had some sort of plan to
use it for something. I think he was trying just to
king
rule
himself.
Eldraine, but like
It
I don't know.
feels like retroactive. Like originally he's kind of a trickster, and now
Hmm.
they're trying to push in some
Push
sort of
other
extra
things,
plot line of why he was doing what he was doing.
possibly.
But
But all of this felt very genuine and sincere
it
and
was
really
very nice.
sweet. There's a lot of heart to it. None of it felt kind of hokey and dumb. And Kellen ends asking like, "What was he like? Like, what did he look like? What did it feel like to be around him?" Like really personal um,
And then she was like, "Dude, it was a fucking
questions.
nightmare. Everyone was playing blue green food. All you ever saw was it was like Gilded Goose into
He
Oko
was
every
everywhere.
goddamn game."
Um, but no, it was really nice. I was uh, like, the surprise, quote unquote, of Oko being the dad wasn't huge, but I'm also the kind of person that like if there's some sort of surprise in a story or mystery, like I'm not really interested in trying to figure out what it is. I just like it washing over me and it just makes it more enjoyable. Um
So I was like, if his dad isn't Oko, I'm gonna be pissed because like,
mhm,
come on, it has to be Oko.
yeah.
And
Um
so it was more like, yeah, it's Oko,
to,
and I
and
like that. That's good.
mhm. And I think that like I initially had thought that and then I kind of forgot and then as I was reading it I was like, "Oh right, I thought that at the
Right,
beginning."
Oko, forgot about that guy.
So it was just nice. Anyway, so after his conversation with his mom, Kellen cannot sleep. He's just like so amped. Like, fuck, my dad is so fucking cool. I want to hear more stories about him. I want to meet him. He's so awesome. So he goes and he gets up and he starts walking his sheepdog by the woods again. By the way, his sheepdog's name is Hex, which is hilarious because it's a Rex joke, but Hex like a witch's hex or an enchantment. I just think that's cute writing. Um,
Nice. I didn't put that together. The Rex
mhm.
joke.
It's Rex, but Hex. Anyway, so as he's walking again, he stumbles upon a portal. However, this portal looks different than the one he's seen before. Um,
Right.
maybe this is one of the ones that Troyan or Oko were from, the ones that were from other worlds.
Hmm.
And he decides once again, don't tell your fucking family anything.
His poor mom, man.
I had this amazing conversation with my mom. My stepdad's super fucking cool. I love my dog. Ruby and all of them are sweet, but you know what? I'm walking through this portal no matter
You
what.
know what? I'm family first, so I'm just
Hmm.
gonna jump through this portal.
Exactly. So we have story spotlight number 13, Extraordinary Journey, which is a fucking bomb card in limited. It's so annoying. Um, and he heads on out through the Omen Path, which is what he fell upon. Um, we have a quick, tiny little epilogue, which we cut to Ashiok in the cell with Ariette, who is prisoner to our boy king. They talk about new plans. Ariette asks if Rowan is outside, and they're going to meet up with her, and they're going to enact all of these plans together. And Ashiok says, actually, we're going to leave her behind. She's not quite ready for this yet, but I'm going to take you. So he engulfs Ariette in this black smoke, and they vanish without leaving a trace. There are just empty chains left behind, and the knights will come in the morning and see that she has vanished.
Yeah.
And that is
So,
the end of our story.
so this is my interpretation of Ashiok, based mostly on that last scene because Ashiok shows up
Mm-hmm.
and Ariat says, "Took you long enough," essentially, something like that. Ashiok's like, "Well, I have actually a greater need for us. We'll be back here, don't worry, but we have a thing to do. We're going very far away."
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they're going to a different plane.
Yeah.
Which Ariat may or may not understand. It's unclear based on the conversation because Ashiok repeats, "We're going very far away."
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the four witches, Ariat was able to cast this sleeping curse or whatever to help drive Phyrexia away. But that's about it. That's like the limit of her powers, especially without the other witches'
Mm-hmm.
coordinations. But Ashiok was drawn there due to the huge number of sleepers. And then Ashiok was essentially training her to use this magic. So that's when the curse starts spreading. Is Ashiok's there training Ariat to basically spread it and control the people that, because I don't think originally she would be able to do that.
Gotcha.
Um,
That makes sense.
and that's why Ariat kind of was okay at it, and then Ashiok was
Very
the
good at it.
master when
Mm-hmm.
they came in. And so that's kind of my interpretation. Ashiok has some bigger motive here that involves like essentially taking Ariat on as a student.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ariat then subsequently like took Rowan on as a
Rowan on a
student,
student.
despite being a student herself. Um, I still don't know if Ashiok or Ariat actually sent Rowan the dream. My assumption is Ariat because Ashiok doesn't seem to care about Rowan at all.
That's true. Um,
But I think that's kind of the
I
vibe I was getting is Ashiok's like training up a sort of number two for
apprentice.
some reason, an apprentice, a
I
Padawan.
That's cool. I love the idea of seeing another Ariette in the future because Ariette is one of my favorite characters from this story.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just I mean, it's obviously I like the card. I picked it for a worth a slot. Yada yada. Of course, this is a character that I like and I'm interested in this. Yeah, but seeing a new version in the future is something I'm really excited for, especially if it's Esper. But we'll have to find out. My kind of takeaways from this are that well first off, I have my own gripes with story spotlights, which is we got through 13 of them, which is pretty good because there were 15 in total. However, there were two that stood out that was like, why the fuck did you have these be story spotlights? One of them is Moment of Valor, which is just a combat trick / removal spell for limited. But the actual artwork depicts a knight fighting a seemingly sort of nightmarish thing. And the flavor text is: hardened by the Phyrexian invasion, Will's knights starved Will's knights starved the nightmares of the thing they craved most, which was fear. Um, that has nothing to do with the story.
Yes. Didn't happen.
Didn't happen. And then we have a glass casket, which introduces a character I've never heard of before, which just says, while Neva's mind wandered to the realm of dreams, her body lay protected as mages worked frantically to find a cure for the wicked slumber. Which is, who the fuck is Neva? I don't know.
Who are these mages that are working to cure the wicked slumber?
Why is this one of those things where it's in the side stories again? Like, why are you making story spotlights for side stories? I don't understand. Like, make the story spotlights the mythic cards. I don't know. Like,
There just doesn't need to be 15 of them. Like,
there doesn't have to be 15. There could be 10.
does anyone even notice when they're playing a card as story spot?
I mean, like, I do because I look for them now. But like,
Yeah.
or if you see
we
like,
do, but do
like,
normal people?
I don't know. Anyway, those are things that bug me. But Jeff, before we start rating beers and we get to our last beer, what do we rate this story? How does it like kind of rank up to the other stories that we've read or we've listened to or we've had in the past?
I would say generally this one had some really nice moments, but it also had a lot of chaotic combat scenes
Mm-hmm.
um, that are less. Those parts were not as good. And then I don't know. There were just like there's at least one or two things, but every story that kind of was like, what? Come
Mm-hmm.
on. So I would rank this one not terrible, not the worst we've done, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's below average.
I agree. I think this one's below average. I think the heart is really there. Uh, there were
There's a lot of
definitely.
parts I really want to like it for, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think that our author is a really good writer. I've never thought that our author was a bad writer. I think that the task at hand is very difficult, and
Oh, it's impossible.
I think that that's the majority of my gripes, and that I think our author does the best that they can at what they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But the moments that they find to shine are really wonderful. That I can forgive a lot of random other stuff. Um,
Yeah, which is I
but
think why they got the job
of
for this.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like some of the ideas you had that came up, like little um, jump backs and stuff, and jumping to different characters or whatever. Seems nice, though. Obviously, they're trying to stay with specific uh, viewpoints, which is also helpful
Yeah.
because it's so annoying when you jump all over the place with the viewpoints. But
Yeah, and I think those jumps are fine like if it's
if
a paragraph or
yeah, or something,
something,
just a short little.
but mostly is one or two
Mhm.
viewpoints.
When it's not like the entire story is 10 viewpoints and each story is two different ones, like it's like, come on.
Right.
um so yeah, that can be irritating. um but it's also difficult in a lot of stories where you see a very important close moment between two characters from a third character's perspective, which is like,
Hmm.
that was the wrong time to use that technique. I wanted to see what that was happening right there with them, you
Right.
know.
I want to see
So it's
what
like,
they were thinking.
it's like in Innistrad Midnight Hunt or Crimson Vow when Chandra is saying goodbye to Adeline. It's like, I want to see
Mhm.
what they're doing and what they're saying together,
Right.
not
Yeah.
necessarily somebody else looking at them, you know?
No, but hey,
Um,
Soren's like,
mhm.
eh.
Meh.
Like,
I
oh,
don't give a
glad we
shit.
got that perspective.
Humans. Bleh. You know? Like, so uh, that's just that. I don't think that's going to change. That would just be random little bits. Um, but overall, yeah, I think I don't love this one. And honestly, Kellen is annoying as hell, and I'm
Yeah.
really not excited to. This character is. This is the character. This arc is this character.
Right.
do you know that? Yeah, like this character, he's in Ixalan and onward. Like we're seeing Kellen in the immediate next story, as well as obviously Kellen's gonna have to show up at some point in like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, or at least Oko's in that set. So they're gonna
I
meet
mean,
up.
come on. That's how he's gonna like meet his dad or whatever.
If not in that set, the next couple ones, like
Yeah.
so. I as opposed to the Phyrexian arc where I was excited for what was happening next, I am not interested in the rest of this.
Yeah,
Like
I wonder if they're trying to like get a younger age group interested and make like,
eight
a
year olds.
kid. But I think they shot a little too young.
Mm-hmm.
Like 8-year-olds can still read about 12-year-olds and think
Mm-hmm.
it's cool and exciting or whatever.
That's the thing that like when I was watching Disney shows, I was like 8, 10, whatever,
Yeah.
because they were like in middle school or in high school, and that was
They're
exciting.
about high school and the
When
actors
you're
are actually 20.
yeah, but if you're in high school and like you're less interested in something that's younger than you know, you're always
Right, for sure. Yeah.
for the in general, people are excited for the future. Like obviously, people like looking at the past, but if you want to look up to something, so watching something that's a little bit above you, so as you can strive for it, makes you feel good. Um,
Mhm. Yeah.
anyway,
I
so
feel like Kellen's just too young a hero, even if they're trying to approach a
we'll
younger
see how.
demographic.
I get the idea of starting small and getting big, but you're
Yeah,
right.
maybe
Maybe
there's like a
maybe too
lot of
small.
time between the
I
sets.
think so. I think he's gonna be like adult. Like he's gonna be
He's
cool.
45 in the next one.
That's a little bit high, but no, I think that he'll actually become a real strong, good hero. He'll be a Gideon at the end. It's almost like a Gideon story arc, but without Gideon. Um,
It's not
because
Kytheon, it's Kellen.
yes, so different. But anyway, that's what we thought about the story. Tell us what you think about the story on our Discord channel. Come check us out. The link is in the show notes below. We talk about deck lists and different things, gripes about stuff. Talk about new booster packs that just dropped today. Come see what we're talking about. But we did our conclusion, Jeff. We talked about the whole story. This episode is fucking long as hell, but it's going to be, we got to live it up while we can because we're not
Yeah.
going to have long episodes like this anymore. Let's go to our final beer and then rate the beers for the last time for the Silver Series. All righty. So we have one Weirby this evening. It is Heineken. And as I'm pouring the beer, I need to look at my notes because I don't remember any of the information about this. All right. So Heineken, as you should know, is a pale lager. As you should know, as I couldn't remember from my notes. Anyway, it's from Holland. It's 5%, and it came out in 1873. So none of these beers are from this century or last century.
I think that's
Crazy.
interesting that all of the beers we like are the
Mhm.
old ones.
I think it
Are we
is
just old
interesting,
school?
but I don't think so. I think just there is a thing, and I don't want to get into this too much because this episode is so fucking long already. But uh,
The send dog.
our friend Ryan, who, if you know the show, he's been on the show before. He's a brewer. He's a very good one, in fact. And what happens is once you start drinking a lot of different types of beers and craft beers, you start to realize that the less complicated ones, the really good ones, the ones that are crafted really well, do stand out. Not saying that all of these are particularly part of that, but Ryan being really interested in like dark lagers or lagers in general,
Yeah.
that it happens
Or
very
traditional
often.
styles that he
Mhm.
has gravitated towards.
Much less interested in like um, mojito sours and stuff like that, of like just random made up stuff, just like throwing tiramisu into a mash
Yeah.
ton, whatever. Um, yeah. So old's good. Old is good.
Yeah.
So we're drinking some Heineken. seeing what's up. Started with Estella, had a Hacker Shore, went to Keith's, went to Heineken. You know, honestly, before we get into our ranking, we're gonna go from silver 4 to silver 1. So
Sort of.
worst to best, basically, of the night.
Or are we going to go 4-3-1-2? You know what I mean?
What?
It's just like if you go 4-3-2, then you know what one is. So sometimes people do like 4-3-1 because
Oh,
there's
because
only
that's
two
it.
left at that point.
That's true.
And so it's like name the winner instead of the runner up.
That is true. I
It's
mean,
been so long since we've done one of these, man. I
I
don't
know.
remember.
I know. We usually just go 4-3-2-1,
Okay, that's fair. It's
which is fine.
mathematically equivalent. So
Yeah, yeah. I thought that would just be better for you, Doctor
yeah.
Math. But yeah, I it's been a long road us going this eventually this originally started with us trying to figure out what the best camping beer would be, which
Right.
is
Yeah, we were camping and we were like, you know what
mhm,
we should we should start a tournament to find the
yeah,
best camping beer.
be
Here
like
we are
what
years later.
mhm. And it kind of changed from best camping beer to just best macro brew, one
It's
that we
like the best,
wouldn't
what can I pick up a case of that,
mhm,
you know, anyone's
rel-
gonna like if they come over, you know, like
relatively
my
cheap,
father-in-law, my
mhm.
friend, some friend of a friend that I don't know that well, you know.
Like just one that like no one's gonna be like, oh, this one, I don't like that, just a good beer people
But
like.
I can still feel good about recommending, you know,
Mhm.
given that
That I could,
you know, people know me as a beer guy.
I could drink it any time and feel solid about. I could go to a bar and order it and feel good about, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, that's what this was about. Also, hey, if you've never drank a Sapporo next to a Budweiser next to a Coors,
Yeah.
yeah, you got it because those are not the same.
It will
And
probably shake up what you have
you're,
in your mind.
yeah,
That's what I
and
was going to say. It was such a fun experience because, like, I had so many opinions that looking back, I think was mostly just marketing.
yeah,
And now I'm like, after I'd actually taste them back to back, I'm like, oh, actually, I don't really like this one. I do like this one.
hmm
Like, there were beers that I thought were awesome. You know, Sapporo is kind of the big example.
hmm
I was just like, that's horrible. I
like
didn't like that at
Sapporo
all.
was actively disgusting.
Yeah.
I would always get a Sapporo when I went
That's the
to.
one I'm nominating to like push down to bronze.
Yeah, that one's like I actually, you know what, I'm down. We can take Sapporo and
They
shove
come
it
in the
down
big
because
ass can too. You're getting
yeah,
like,
they're
you know,
horrible. Like
a
I
wine
actively
bottle of this swill.
like really really bad. And it's just very surprising. So
And again, this is our opinion. So if you're crafting
mhm,
opinions based on what we say, you should try it. And like maybe you
yeah.
love Sapporo, whatever, that's fine. But it's like you're gonna find out new things when you taste these, actually drink these beers
hmm
next to each other and
So
compare.
like if you have a bunch of friends, please get together, get like 6 or 12 of you together and just everyone bring one silver beer and all
Mhm.
try them back to back,
Yeah.
like just little
Everyone brings the
little
six pack or
tasters,
whatever.
or yeah, or just like something, and
Oh yeah, do a taster, yeah.
or anything, like taste as many as you can, as close together as you can, um because it really changed my outlook. Like
I
I
always thought I hated Budweiser. Now I'm like pretty solid going just get a six for a Bud. Like
Budweiser
doesn't
is
mind me.
good. You know
Yeah.
what? I had a lot of people say, "Oh, because like there's rice in it, it makes it bad." It's like actually no, it makes it kind of sweet and delicious. Like
Yeah. Sapporo, on the other hand, that's a bad rice beer.
yuck, 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 yuck. Tastes like dust.
Coors Light still sucks. I was
That's
right about
pretty.
that.
It's
You know, like
I
sometimes it will reaffirm what you think,
mhm.
and sometimes it'll
See,
challenge what you think.
and I thought I liked Coors and Coors Light because of the mountain water, and in fact, I
Yeah.
really
I
don't
mean,
like it.
Coors has good marketing. You
They
cannot
do.
deny that.
They really do.
So Even though sometimes you take a step back and you're like, you're marketing that your beer is cold. Like, oof,
Mm-hmm.
that beer must really suck.
That'd be pretty bad. Um, all right. We've had enough preamble. We've tasted this Heineken long enough. I think they're ready for the final decision.
Sum
I
up, amazing experiment. Would recommend. You don't have to do them all, but do
mhm,
some.
yes, and there's many we weren't able to try, and I wish we were, but I think we're kind of coming to the end of our own experiment for this. It's been a few
Yeah, I
years.
mean,
We've done this
we
for a while.
traveled the world. We
Hmm.
travel. We went across the space time continuum, man. We
Hmm.
went back, seven
We
hundred years.
literally went to space because Sapporo was actually sent to space. So,
There you go.
like, this has been an amazing journey, and it feels so weird to be finishing it tonight. But um,
It gives another
this is it.
meaning to the term rice rocket.
Yes. All right, Jeff. So, as always, I don't have the ceremonial toonie because it is an
Classic
official
Zach.
fantasy flip. But would you like to do the honors of naming your first Silver 4 beer?
I shall.
Hmm.
Um, Pretty easy actually for me. I kind of took one sip of this, and for me, number
Yep.
four, silver four is Heineken.
Heineken. I 100% agree. My Silver 4 is Heineken
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Now you can say, "Hey guys, the way you're doing this, it suffers from bias in terms of what order you do the
mhm.
beers in," and all we say to that is, "Yeah, that's true."
Yeah. However,
But we're
Heineken
not gonna do it with each beer in every possible order.
is
So,
true.
yeah,
Also, Heineken was earlier in the list on other episodes because it's so
right.
old. So,
Which is why it won its way to here. And
mhm.
then,
So, however, my internal bias was that Heineken was actually terrible, and I've never liked Heineken, and it made it to the
yeah,
finals, which is crazy because
yeah.
I remember picking this up being like, oh, well, that one's going to be trash. So I
Same.
can't believe it made it this far. We're gonna snake it. I'm going Silver 3. This one, you know what? I think I my pick is over here. I'm gonna go grab it and grab my other ones. But oh no, I'm dropping them. Right, sorry, I'm far away from the
Look at you
microphone.
being all neat, having your beers on
I
the
put
table.
I didn't mean it was for something else, but my Silver 3 is a green beer. It's Keith's the Silver 3.
Commander Keith's is Silver
Yeah,
3. We probably have the same exact
I
list. I'm
think we have
sorry.
the same list. So Jeff, give us our number 2 because then I'll lead us into our number 1.
Okay, you deserve to.
Hmm.
So number two, what I have here for you guys is the oldest beer that we did on tonight's episode, and I claimed not the oldest beer we've ever done.
Hmm.
I did not verify that in any way, so I might have lied. Could be the
Okay.
oldest beer we've ever done. This is Stella Artois.
Stella, number 2.
Really good. Good way to start the night.
Yeah,
But as soon as I had a sip of the winner, I knew.
that Hacker Shore Keller beer.
Yeah,
This fucking, I
this shit is
think
awesome.
this shit is awesome.
What is this?
So the reason that Jeff said that I should announce it is because this was the beer I chose to have at my wedding because I knew that it would fit
Because of this experiment.
exactly this experiment. Uh, this is a beer that I'd never even thought about drinking. I looked over
Yeah.
it
If I
every
see
single time.
this before doing this
Hmm.
show, I'd be like, I don't know.
No,
Nah.
it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Now, when I see something that says it's an unfiltered lager, I'm like, that could be good. That could be fire. It
Yeah.
is probably on a little bit on the sweeter side, but it is delicious. Like there's
I
so
like
much.
it though. It's not too sweet that
Mm-mm,
I can't have more than one kind of thing. Like
no.
it's just a hint. It just
Hmm.
gives you that little
It has a
sets it apart.
body, and I think it could fit anyone's palate. It is fantastic.
Honestly, a fantastic beer. And this isn't even
Mhm.
like Hacker Shore apparently it's just a brand, like, and they have a
Yeah.
regular one. This isn't
Mhm.
even.
This isn't
It's
the
just
regular
their
one.
Keller beer. It just
This is
happened
their
to be what
Keller
you
beer.
like grabbed one time or
It was
whatever.
just blue. I don't know. So I've tried. I think I've tried the regular one, the gold one, and there's a couple other ones, but this one's definitely my favorite. And now I'm just very much like, yeah, any unfiltered lager. It just seems like that might be the way to go. So
And I think this one, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it smashed its way through this competition. I think it was like first place,
it
first place, first
it
place, all the
destroyed
way
it.
to the top.
It destroyed
Yeah.
it. So much so that after the first episode, I was like, oh shit, was this beer never silver in the first
Like
place?
this one was in such a different league than everything else we drank. Like
Hmm.
it feels like we took a diamond beer and then dropped it in the silver series.
Yeah,
It's like
just to be
who's gonna
like,
win?
yeah. But that was part of the gamble, of trying to figure out like, hey, let's just pick beers. Um, but in any case, finding a beer from that we've never heard of,
Yeah,
never thought about, that was old and
yeah.
drinking it.
Like this is something I'm gonna recommend to a lot of people
Hmm.
because like people ask me pretty often, like, hey, I'm not an IPA guy or I'm not like a
Hmm.
craft beer drinker, but I still like something more interesting.
Yeah,
Like, dude, get Hacker Shore's Keller beer. Look for the blue can. Look for the German guy who's pouring,
his beer
a
stein. Yeah.
pitcher into a stein, and the pitcher is barely bigger than the stein.
Yeah, check it out. This is also a shout out to go to your random import aisle in your liquor store and pick something random that you've never tried.
Yeah.
No matter what it says. If it says a lager, try it. Like if it's old and from Europe, it's probably awesome. Um,
Mm,
and I'm sure there's a bunch of you out there yelling at us, being like, obviously, this is so whatever.
right.
I'm sure there's a ton of people that already know this stuff. That's fantastic. But like for the craft beer experts or interests, anyone who's like is looking at beer and looking at local stuff, try some weird European stuff that you can't read the label of or you've never heard of or looks kind of old and dusty. Check it out because
Yeah. Get those old classics, man.
like it could be awesome. The older beer, the better beer. Just almost. Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. We
Not
almost went in reverse chronological order
almost.
tonight. But
Um, I mean, because when we started, we thought Stella was going to win flat out, like for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. When we had we're like, oh, it's just gonna be Stella. Why do we bother?
So
And I affirmed that I do like Stella relative to
I
most
really
people.
like Stella.
After
Um,
tasting them back to back, I'm like, okay,
mhm,
it's good to know I wasn't crazy. Like drinking these
mhm.
next to each other, yes, I prefer this one.
And Stella's also the one that's most. It's easier to find at bars. So if you're going to a bar and you want to make sure you get
They
something
might
good,
actually have it.
Stella is always good. Um, you'll never have a random. "Ugh, what was that?" So
Good stuff, man.
good
Good stuff.
stuff. Wow. Silver Series. It happened. Wow. Anyway, this episode has been so long. We should go to closing time and wrap it up.
Yeah.
So you can always find us at Arena Regulars on X and Instagram.
Yeah. You may also find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That is Zeulberg on Twitter. Sorry, X and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Thinking. Best place is on our Discord channel. I go by regular Jeff there, and the link there should be in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to YouTube. Click all the buttons. Any button that's around you, just do it. And give us a like. Give us a comment. We appreciate all the feedback that we get. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that Hacker Shore Keller Beer is the grand champion of our Silver Series.
Good night. All right, that's fine.